Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Godlike Naruto is sorted into Slytherin. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by HueyHuey and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Year 1. Chapter 1. A change in setting. Naruto was lying in bed thinking about his last mission with Kakashi. He had to admit being on a team was pretty lonely when it was only you and a sensei. Naruto graduated early at the age of 7 and became Kakashi's apprentice and enjoyed it as much as one could. The mission they went on was a bad one, bad as in nothing went to plan. A certain person was Orochimaru. That bastard had bit him on the neck close to his shoulder which left a mark on his neck. It had 3 slits each pointing in a different direction with 3 lines bending to circle the slits. Kakashi brought him to a room and sealed the mark off saying that it was the best option they had currently. The seal did its job though and rendered the curse mark completely useless. He remembered Orochimaru saying that he was testing his new curse mark that should allow him to take over a body with a demon sealed in it. The bastard said that he was the perfect test subject because he wasn't a big threat. Naruto knew he was right. Training with Kakashi for 4 years wouldn't exactly help him against Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin. Naruto was brought out of his thoughts when he heard a knocking on his window. He glanced over and saw Kakashi sitting on his window ledge reading his smut. Naruto crawled out of bed and opened the window letting his sensei in. "What's up, Kakashi?" Kakashi put his book away and looked at Naruto. "I have something to tell you." "About what?" Kakashi pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to blonde. "You are being promoted to Jonin." "Why am I being promoted?" "The Hokage thought it would be best if I took on a team. A team with a certain Ichigo. I will be taking on a 3-person cell, which means I won't be able to train you as much anymore. So I talked to the Hokage about you being promoted so you won't be left in the dust. Do you have a choice?" Kakashi raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Naruto sighed. "I mean, don't you have a choice in this?" "No. Direct order. So I am guessing that I have to go see the Hokage right now." Receiving a nod he began putting on his sandals. "Well Kakashi, I don't find the news to be good." "Neither do I. To be honest, you're not ready for the promotion," replied Kakashi as he left the apartment. Naruto followed behind. His mood turned sour. This was the worst. Yes, he was getting a promotion, but only because Kakashi was getting a new team that he wasn't allowed to fail. Nothing better than a promotion given out of pity. Following his sensei into the Hokage's office and coming to a stop in front of the third's desk, awaiting to be acknowledged. After a few short minutes the aging leader set a few sheets of paper off to the side and gave his guests his full attention. "Naruto, do you know why you are here?" Naruto nodded. "To become a Jonin." "Good. Do you accept?" Naruto looked at the Hokage in a bit of surprise, not expecting it to be a choice. "I accept." "Perfect, I just need you to sign these papers and then you can leave." Naruto grabbed a pen and signed the required paperwork. He put the pen down and walked out of the room without saying a word. Shutting the door behind him he started to walk down the hall towards the exit. "Being a Jonin is for suckers," he muttered as he continued towards his apartment in silence. Unlocking his door, Naruto stepped into his apartment and kicked off his sandals. His bed was calling his name and, in his current mindset, it would be rude to ignore. Without bothering to change he dropped onto his bed and drifted off to sleep. Not noticing the letter that fell onto the floor. Harry lied down on the dirt floor and started to draw a birthday cake on the ground. The only one he would receive this year. Finishing up he grabbed his cousin's wrist who was sleeping on the couch and set the watch he had on to go off at midnight, the day of his birthday. He might as well celebrate it early as his aunt and uncle sure wouldn't celebrate it with him or for him. All they cared about was Dudley, their fat son. They spoiled him rotten. To be honest, it filled him with jealousy. Why couldn't they buy him things or do what he wanted to do? No, he had to cook for them, do the dishes, do their laundry, and clean most of their house. They never hit him, probably because they could be in trouble with the law if they did. He looked at Dudley's watch. The time said 11:57. Only 3 more minutes until his birthday, he just wanted to get it over with. Harry started to draw candles to finish the cake off. It was only a minute until his birthday, might as well be ready. The alarm on Dudley's watch went off and Harry looked back at his drawing. "Make a wish, Harry." He blew on the drawing, messing it up and spreading the dirt around more. He bent his head down ready for sleep, but only for it to snap back up at a loud bang on their door. The door was banged on again. This time he instantly got onto his feet and ran to the side of the fireplace to keep him hidden. He heard one more bang and the door dropped to the ground, waking Dudley up screaming. That kid was never one for bravery. Harry looked at the stairs and saw his aunt and uncle walking down slowly. He noticed the shotgun in his hands. He doubted he would be able to shoot someone. Harry slowly poked his head around the wall and saw a giant man put the door back up and start walking towards Dudley. "I haven't seen you since you were a baby, Harry. "You're a bit bigger than I expected, especially right here in the middle," said the giant, patting his stomach. Dudley gathered up some courage and said, I'm not Harry." Harry took this as his cue to come out of hiding. "I am." The giant looked at him. "Well, of course you are." He walked towards Harry and reached into his pocket. "I got something for you. I might have accidentally sat on it on the way here, but it should taste just the same." Harry took the box and opened it, revealing a cake. "Thank you, mister. The name is Rubeus Hagrid, keeper of grounds and keys at Hogwarts," he said as he sat down on the couch and pointed his pink umbrella at the fireplace. Fire spit out of the tip of the umbrella, igniting the fireplace. Harry stared at Hagrid with wide eyes. Hagrid, how did you do that?" Hagrid smiled to himself. "You are exactly what I am, a wizard. I was expelled, so I am not allowed to use magic. So I ask you not to tell anyone." Harry nodded and sat the cake down and sat down next to Hagrid. "So are you here?" Hagrid reached into his pocket and pulled out a letter and handed it to Harry. Harry opened the letter and started to read it. "Dear Harry Potter. We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find an enclosed list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall." Uncle Vernon's face went red with anger. "I won't have some crack old fool teach him magic tricks." Hagrid stood up instantly and pointed his umbrella at Vernon. "Don't you ever insult Albus Dumbledore in front of me." Harry smirked at the paling face of his uncle. What a joy it was to see him scared. Hagrid pulled a watch out of his pocket, looked at it, put it back, and walked towards the door. He looked back at Harry. "Unless you would rather stay, of course." Harry smiled, nodded, and grabbed his button-up shirt and followed Hagrid out of the door. Naruto rolled out of his bed and hit the floor with a thud. "Fuck," Naruto groaned as he was picking up Anko's mouth. He seriously should have left when she came over to be with Kakashi. The woman was a nightmare, always threatening to castrate you, loves the sight of blood, and has a wardrobe problem. He didn't know what Kakashi saw in her. Naruto looked at his alarm clock and growled in frustration. Why was he always waking up in the middle of the night? Naruto propped himself up onto his knees and raised his eyebrow when he noticed a letter on the floor. He picked it up, opened it, and started to read it quietly to himself. "Dear Naruto Uzumaki. We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find an enclosed list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. P.S. Because of your problem of being in another country, we will send our potions master to come and pick you up. His name is Severus Snape and he will help you get all of your supplies for the year. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall." Naruto looked in the envelope and pulled out a second sheet of paper. Noticing it was the list of the materials that he needed, he unfolded it and started to read. Uniform. First-year students will require 3 sets of plain work robes, black. 1 plain pointed hat, black, for day wear. 1 pair of protective gloves, dragon hide or similar. 1 winter cloak, black, with silver fastenings. Please note that all pupils' clothes should carry name tags. Course books. All students should have a copy of each of the following. The Standard Book of Spells, Grade 1, by Miranda Goshik. The History of Magic by Bathilda Bagshot. Magical Theory by Adalbert Waffling. The Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration by Emeric Switch. 1000 Magical Herbs and Fungi by Felita Spore. Magical Drafts and Potions by Arsenius Jigger. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander. The Dark Forces. A Guide to Self-Protection by Quentin Trimble. Other equipment. 1 wand. 1 cauldron, pewter, standard size 2. 1 set glass or crystal files. 1 telescope. 1 set brass scales. Students may also bring an owl or a cat or a toad. Yours sincerely, Lucinda Thumbsonical Pocus, Chief Attendant of Witchcraft Provisions. Naruto sat there in silence for a minute. How in the hell was he a wizard? This didn't exactly make sense to him, especially since it was around midnight and he was drowsy. He would have to talk to Kakashi about this, see what he knew about all this wizardry stuff. Naruto put on his clothes minus his orange jacket and headband. Walking out of his apartment, he locked his door and started to walk to Kakashi's. Yes, it was still dark out and Kakashi was possibly asleep. He was having sex with Anko. It was one of them. Naruto stopped making fun of Kakashi for reading that smut book he always likes to read. Stopping because it wasn't as satisfying knowing he was getting the real thing. Seeing his destination getting closer, he picked up the pace and came to a stop in front of the door. Knocking loudly. Hearing the sounds of Anko dominating his sensei produced an annoyed twitch of his eyebrow. They seriously needed to soundproof and no signs of them slowing down. Naruto picked up some pebbles and started throwing them at his window. Once Anko stopped moaning, he knew he had Kakashi's attention. He only had to wait a couple of minutes before the door opened, revealing Kakashi with no shirt and a blanket wrapped around his waist. "I need to talk to you." Kakashi looked at Naruto before nodding and allowing him to come in, only to be greeted by a naked Anko standing on top of the stairs. "Naruto, I am going to put some clothes on, I'll be right back." "Don't get distracted, Kakashi." Kakashi scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "Right." Naruto sighed and sat down on the couch. His sensei and his significant other were freaks. Naruto was brought out of his musings when a still naked Anko sat on his lap. She wrapped her arms around his neck and pulled him closer. "Does little Naruto want to join?" Naruto turned beet red and no. Anko put her face close to his and whispered, "Come on, it could be fun." Naruto silently gagged, her breath strongly smelt like alcohol, she was drunk. Naruto tried to wiggle himself out of her grasp, but to no avail. Where the hell was Kakashi? It doesn't take that long to get dressed. Kakashi walked into the living room to see Anko on top of Naruto. Poor kid. He walked over and pulled Anko off of the young boy before she took it a little too far. Naruto glared at Anko while trying to get his face back to normal. He couldn't tell if the boy was flustered or mad. Once Anko was gone, Kakashi sat next to his student. "So, what do you need?" Naruto pulled out his letter and handed it to Kakashi. "I need to know what a wizard is." Kakashi's eyes went wide, so he did inherit the skill from his mom. He turned to Naruto and started to explain the best he could. "Naruto, wizards are like ninjas, though they don't use hand-to-hand combat or genjutsu, they use ninjutsu in a way. Though instead of using hand signs they use wands. They can levitate things and do other tricky little tricks." Before you ask, the reason ninja don't use magic, that's what wizards call it, it's because you have to be born with the ability to use magic. In your case you can use magic and your ninja abilities. Not if anything I said makes sense, this is hard to explain. Naruto nodded. "So instead of using hand signs to mold their chakra or magic as they call it, they use wands. Good. Another thing is that they don't exactly run out of magic like we do with chakra. Naruto, you can still run out of chakra, but not your magic. Well, you can, but it would take a long time because when you mold magic with a wand, it uses a small amount, a very small amount." Naruto nodded and then asked 3 questions that have been on the top of his head. "Kakashi, how do you know so much about magic? Can you use it as well? How do I have magic?" Kakashi thought for a moment, should he tell him the entire story or just portions of it? Kakashi finally decided on the whole truth. "No, Naruto, I can't use magic, but the reason I know so much about it was because your mom was a witch." Naruto was shocked, his mom was a witch. "My mom was a witch. Was she also a ninja?" "Yes and no. Your mom was a witch, but not a ninja, she was trained in hand-to-hand combat, but she could not use chakra at all. Your dad on the other hand was a ninja, but not a wizard. So you got your magic from your mom and your chakra from your dad." Naruto sat there for a minute absorbing it all in. "Could you tell me who my parents were?" Kakashi hesitated before deciding to tell him. "Your mom's name is Kushina Uzumaki and your dad's name is Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage." Naruto sat there for a minute, he was pissed, happy, sad, and a little bit of every emotion. "My dad sealed the demon fox inside of me, his own son." Kakashi winced slightly at Naruto's tone, it was sad and quite the first time he had ever heard Naruto use that tone, and he didn't like it. "Kakashi, do you think I would be able to go to this Hogwarts place without becoming a missing ninja?" Grateful for the change of topic, he replied, "I am sure we can make an agreement with the Hokage tomorrow, but right now I think we should go to sleep and let you think about what I just told you. You can sleep here if you want. Good night, Naruto." Naruto smiled. "Good night, Kakashi, don't be too loud, remember you have a guest here." Kakashi mumbled something that he couldn't hear and went upstairs. The next morning Naruto had been rudely awakened by a moaning Anko. Grabbing everything he had brought over from the night before, which was practically nothing, he covered his ears and ran out of Kakashi's apartment. Slamming the door to let them know that he left. Naruto started to walk towards the Hokage's office, he was going to try and get permission to attend Hogwarts before the potions master dude came to get him. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and he wasn't going to deny it from ignorance. He was nervous and very excited about all of this, now all he wished was that the old man didn't kill his mood. Naruto walked into the Hokage tower and went up to the Hokage's office and knocked on the door. Hearing the Hokage call him in, he walked into the office shutting the door behind him. The Hokage looked up and saw Naruto sit down in front of his desk. "Ah, Naruto, how can I help you?" Naruto pulled the letter out of his pocket and handed it to the Hokage. "I would like to attend Hogwarts." Naruto looked around the room rather nervously. How many ninjas come into the Hokage's office and ask to attend a wizard school? Probably not a whole lot. He sat patiently waiting for the old man's answer. He sure took his sweet-ass time. The Hokage put the letter down and cleared his throat. "I think we could make something work, Naruto. After all, it's not every day we get a wizard in our ranks. This is something I wouldn't want you to miss out on, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Your mom was a very powerful witch." Naruto smiled, a real genuine smile, "Thank you. But there are some things you need to know, if you want to attend Hogwarts, you have to train in the ninja arts while you are there. As well as coming back every summer to train here. I will let Kakashi train you for that period. If you fail to come back to Konoha during the summer I will not allow you to attend anymore. Is that understood?" Naruto eagerly nodded. This was great. He could become a wizard and be a ninja at the same time. Naruto thanked the Hokage before leaving to tell Kakashi the good news. Naruto knocked on Kakashi's door and noticed Anko wasn't here, or at least, based on the lack of any noise coming from the place she wasn't. Naruto looked at the people passing him. Every single person was glaring at him. Hopefully they would just forget about him. The sooner they do that, the better off they will be. He drew his attention back to the door opening to reveal a tired-looking Kakashi's. "Anko is here. Kakashi, the old man said I could go to Hogwarts. But he said I have to train while I am there and I have to come back every summer to train. He also mentioned that you could train me during the summer." Kakashi nodded and smiled behind his mask. "When do you think that potion man will arrive?" "Most likely tomorrow since I still have to get my supplies." Kakashi nodded. "Alright, let me get into some proper clothing. I want to teach you something before you leave." Naruto nodded and impatiently waited for Kakashi to come back out. Naruto silently followed behind Kakashi to training ground 7. He was really curious as to what Kakashi was going to teach him. It couldn't be a fire jutsu as Kakashi had already taught him most of those. Couldn't be any water jutsu because that isn't one of his affinities and it would take more than a day to master one of those jutsu, same with any earth jutsu. Naruto learned all he could with wind. He only knew 2 jutsus for it, but he still knew how to use them efficiently. They finally came to a stop in the middle of the grounds. Kakashi turned around to face Naruto. "Do you remember what jutsu I created?" Naruto nodded. "The Chidori." "Right, well, Naruto, that is what I am going to teach you." Naruto's eyes widened. "Why are you going to teach it to me?" Kakashi smiled, "Because you deserve it. Didn't you tell me that it required the Sharingan to use?" Kakashi nodded and then shook his head. "It does, and then it doesn't. The Sharingan just helps you with it. Since you move so fast when using the technique you get tunnel vision which makes it harder to use. It isn't impossible to use without the Sharingan, it's just harder." Naruto nodded. That made sense. His eyes went back to Kakashi as he started to speak again. "The Chidori isn't the only thing I am going to teach you. I am also going to help you gain access to Kyuubi's chakra, so we will not be training here. We will be training in the mountains so no one can tell you are using the Kyuubi's chakra." Naruto was now really surprised. This was going to be a long day, but he wasn't going to complain. Naruto rested his hands against his knees trying to catch his breath. He only used the Chidori 3 times. It was more demanding than he originally thought. "Alright Naruto, use it one more time." Standing straight, he did a quick session of hand seals and then grabbed his right arm with his left. Electricity started to erupt from his hand and started to chirp loudly. "Chidori." Naruto took off running towards the boulder. If any normal person was watching, Naruto would have been a blur to them. He brought his Chidori-covered hand back and shoved it through the boulder. His hand went all the way through it, the Chidori disappeared and Naruto pulled his hand out of the boulder and walked back over to his sensei. Kakashi looked at Naruto. "Do it one more time and then you're done." With a nod Naruto charged up a Chidori and ran towards the boulder and pierced it. He pulled his hand back out and tried to catch his breath. "Seems like your limit is 5. Good job, Naruto, that is a real feat." Naruto tried to smile, but his lips only formed a thin line. "The reason I had you do it again was to deplete your chakra. I have a feeling accessing Kyuubi's chakra will be easier when you are almost out." Naruto nodded and walked over to Kakashi. "What do I have to do?" "Go into your mindscape." Naruto looked annoyed. "I can't unless I am unconscious. I haven't figured it out yet." Kakashi nodded and chopped the back of his student's neck, knocking him unconscious. Naruto found himself in the same sewer he was in last time he was unconscious. He hoped it wasn't a regular occurrence. As it turns out, getting knocked unconscious was really bad for you. Kyuubi. Naruto looked right into the big red eye that opened up before him. "So my jailer finally decides to visit me again. Ah, and this time that blasted Uchiha isn't with you." The blonde ignored the comment, trying to forget about his last sensei for the moment. "I need a favor from Yabbit to make it fair. I will do something for Yabbit that also depends on what it is." Kyuubi didn't answer him right away. Maybe he was thinking about it. After all, the great mighty demon might get something out of this. "What is the favor you need?" "I want to be able to access your chakra whenever I feel like it." Kyuubi was once again silent. "I want to be able to have access to you." Naruto raised his eyebrow. "What do you mean?" The Kyuubi looked his container dead in the face. "I want to be able to talk to you. I also want to be able to pull you into your mindscape at will." Alright, Naruto hesitated. That sounds fair, I guess, but how will that benefit you? HueyHuey grinned. That brat wasn't an idiot. I will be able to keep you from dying by helping you. Also, the longer you're in here with me, the more I will have an influence on you. Every time I pull you in here, my presence will start to change you bit by bit. It won't completely change you, but it will be enough for me to think of you as a respectable host. Come to think of it, my chakra has been influencing you your whole life. Every time you were angry or sad, my chakra leaked out of you, not a whole lot, but enough for me to notice. Naruto nodded, a little uncertain. So you have been influencing me my entire life. Naruto looked down instantly as he saw HueyHuey's chakra start to surround him. This will give you access to my chakra and me access to you. Until next time. Naruto found himself lying on the ground and Kakashi standing over him reading his book. He cleared his throat to get his attention. Kakashi looked down and raised an eyebrow. Naruto started to rub his hand on his neck where Kakashi hit him. It worked. Naruto was lying in his bed thinking about what happened today. He learned the Chidori and it took him almost the whole day to learn. Then he made a deal with the HueyHuey. He didn't know if that was good or if it was bad. Then they finally had some ramen and then went to Kakashi's just to hang out. Then when Anko showed up and he left. He didn't want to be anywhere close to that psychotic bitch of a woman. She was crazy. Tomorrow was supposed to be when Snape came to get him. He was slightly nervous, but yet excited. He was going to learn magic. Nothing could be compared to that. Well, maybe becoming Kakashi's apprentice again. Well, maybe not. This other sensei could be compared to this. Once he got back, he was going to kick Kakashi's ass all by himself. Closing his eyes, he let sleep take him over, knowing tomorrow will be the start of his new life. Naruto was woken up by a banging on his door. Slowly getting out of bed, he drowsily walked over to his door and opened it. He was about to make a rude remark until he realized the person at his door was someone he was unfamiliar with. He had black robes, black eyes with black greasy hair. Are you Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto nodded, rubbing his eyes. I am Professor Snape. Just let me grab a few things. Naruto didn't wait for an answer as he went to grab his pouch and his kunai holster. He walked back to his door. I'm ready. Snape nodded and grabbed Naruto's shoulder. The next thing he felt was a gut-wrenching pull, then it was gone. Looking around, he noticed they were in a bar-looking place. Naruto heard the man again. This is the Leaky Cauldron. He nodded, then froze when he realized he was still in his pajamas. Embarrassment washing over him. I will be helping you get your supplies, Mr. Uzumaki. He nodded and followed him into a room with a brick wall. You will get new clothes, so don't worry. Naruto looked at Snape in puzzlement. This man had just read his mind. Well, he really didn't, he just answered his unasked question. At least he hoped. Then another question popped into his head. We kind of forgot to tell the Hokage that we were leaving. Snape finished tapping the wall with his wand. I talked with your village leader before I came to get you, he knows that we left. Naruto accepted that answer and followed Snape into a village-looking place. This is Diagon Alley. You will be getting everything you need for school here. Naruto looked around amazed. The place was full of wizards and witches. They did everything they could probably do in this place. He looked into a shop called Broomsticks and saw a bunch of kids surrounding a broom. Naruto looked up at Snape. Are you a professor at Hogwarts? Yes. Naruto nodded, figuring that Snape wasn't a person for conversation. Do you teach potions then? To be honest, it sounds interesting. Snape looked down at Naruto. Once you understand it, you will be able to do a lot of remarkable things with it. Naruto's curiosity kept on growing. What are some of the remarkable things you can do with it? Snape thought for a minute before answering. You can brew a polyjuice potion which will let you transform into someone else. But you must have a strand of hair of the person you want to turn into. It is a temporary effect. I can turn into people without the use of a potion. Snape looked at Naruto with a bit of surprise, not that Naruto could notice it. I don't believe you. Naruto glared at him and grabbed his arm, forcing him to stop. Snape turned to face Naruto with a look of annoyance on his face. Naruto smirked when a cloud of smoke covered him. Snape's eyes slightly widened when he saw Naruto as an exact replica of himself. Naruto smirked to himself at seeing Snape's eyes widen. Believe me now? How did you do that? Naruto let go of the hinge and continued to walk. You wouldn't believe me even if I told you. Snape stood there for a minute before going after him. This kid was becoming very interesting. Naruto walked into a store called Ollivander's Wand Shop. Snape told him to go in there to get his wand, then to meet him at Elip's Owl Emporium. He didn't know how the hell he was going to pay for all this, but Snape said he would handle it. Naruto walked up to the counter and an old man walked up and greeted him. I wondered when you would be here, Mr. Uzumaki. I remember when your mother came in here to buy her first wand. Naruto stood there dumbfounded. How in the hell did this old man know his name? Naruto was brought out of his thoughts when the old man put a box in front of him. He opened the box and pulled out what he assumed to be a wand. Naruto stood there for a moment before flicking the wand towards the window. The window exploded, sending glass shards everywhere. He quickly put the wand on the counter and the old man went to pull out another wand while mumbling about his window. He came back and handed the new wand to Naruto. Once Naruto grabbed the wand it exploded in his hand and the old man, which he assumed was Mr. Ollivander, just stared at him with a thoughtful expression before going back to find another wand. Naruto just stood there shocked. The wand just exploded in his hand. He noticed the man come back out with another wand and hesitantly handed him the wand. Naruto was relieved when the wand didn't explode, but that vanished when he flicked his wand at the door. The door blew off its hinges and into the street of Diagon Alley, making people jump out of the way. Naruto was getting annoyed fast. Was he defective or something? Mr. Ollivander came out with another wand. I think that this wand should be the right one. Naruto nodded and grabbed the wand. Once he grabbed it, fire shot out of the tip and started to surround him. He just stared at the fire surrounding and circling him. He was amazed that nothing broke. Once the fire receded back into the wand, Mr. Ollivander smiled. Hawthorn, 10 inches, but the core is the most spectacular part of this wand. Naruto looked at the wand and noticed that it was dark gray with a pitch black handle. Mr. Uzumaki, have you ever heard of a beast called the nine-tailed fox? Naruto stiffened slightly, but nodded. The core of your wand is a piece of hair that comes from that giant fox. I find it curious that this wand picked you as it has never picked someone before. Naruto nodded, not thinking of anything else to do. Well, Mr. Uzumaki. It was nice meeting you and your wand has already been paid for. Thanking the old wand maker, he put his wand away and walked out of the shop and headed towards Ellipse Owl Emporium. Naruto walked into Ellipse Owl Emporium to see Snape standing by the checkout counter, standing next to a cart holding books and other supplies that he would need. He walked over to Snape. I got my wand, took forever, but I got it. Good, go ahead and pick out an owl. Naruto nodded and walked around the store until he found a dark brown owl with orange streaks. The owl had orange eyes with slits. Naruto sighed, of course it did. He opened the cage and the owl flew onto his shoulder and didn't seem like it was going to move anytime soon. Naruto grabbed the cage and walked back to the counter while stroking his owl. Snape nodded at his choice and motioned for Naruto to follow him. What are you going to name it? You may guess, Teddy, he finally said after a minute. Snape raised an eyebrow. Teddy. What would you name it? Snape thought for a minute. Something else. Naruto rolled his eyes. That helps, plus it's a dark brown bird with orange streaks and eyes, what fits with that? Snape sighed. This was the most interesting kid he has ever met, Snape thought as he walked into Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions, followed closely by Naruto. Naruto walked in and saw a woman, who he assumed was Madame Malin, walk up to them. New Hogwarts student are you? He nodded at the woman. Alright, follow me. Naruto handed Snape Teddy before following the lady into the back of the store. Stand on this stool. Naruto did as he was told and the woman immediately stretched his arms out to his sides and started measuring. Naruto heard someone call out to him and looked over. Are you going to Hogwarts? He nodded at the blonde kid. He seemed to be doing that a lot lately. Same here, I hope I get put in Slytherin. My father would probably disown me if I didn't. Kind of wizard are you? Naruto, dumbfounded, just stared at the kid. What kind of wizard am I? Yeah, are you a muggle-born, half-blood, or pure-blood? Explain. The pale blonde stared at him looking annoyed. A muggle-born is someone who is born into a filthy muggle family. A muggle is a non-magical person. Never in a million years would I ever associate myself with one of them. A half-blood is someone who has only one parent with a magical background. An example would be a witch who married a muggle and had a magical kid. A pure blood is someone who is born into a magical family with both parents having full magical backgrounds. An example is me. Both of my parents are magical. Generations to prove it. Naruto nodded in understanding. I am a half-blood. I hate muggle-born wizards. Mainly the clueless ones, the morons. My name is Draco Malfoy, by the way. Naruto waved slightly. Naruto Uzumaki. Draco looked around. How do you not know anything about being a wizard if you're a half-blood? Naruto looked and saw the woman finishing up with Draco. Both my parents are dead. Draco stepped down off the stool. Sorry to hear that, he said before walking towards the front of the building. See you at Hogwarts, Naruto. Naruto nodded before glaring at Madame Malkin for poking him with a needle. A few minutes later Naruto walked out of Madame Malkin's in his new robes. They were comfortable, but he preferred his old clothing, which he should really buy more of during the summer. Where do we go now? He asked looking up at his potions professor. Snape started to walk towards a giant white building. We are heading to Gringotts Wizarding Bank. We are going to claim your mother's account. Naruto sighed and nodded. Why couldn't they just say his mother's name for once? Naruto followed Snape into the bank and raised an eyebrow at the creatures that were working in the bank. What are these things? Snape looked back at Naruto. Goblins. Naruto stared at the giant door that kept all of his belongings safe. Once the door opened his eyes widened. Stacks and stacks of money filled the safe. This is the most money he has ever had. Naruto looked up at Snape. Is that all mine? Snape nodded. Your mother left you a lot. With a nod he walked into the vault and grabbed a handful of the coins and put them in his pocket. Naruto was walking through a train station by himself. Well, not really by himself, there was this Potter kid walking beside him, but he didn't talk too much. He was pissed that Snape had just left him here. The professor handed him his train ticket and told him to make it to platform 9 3/4. The only problem with that is that he doesn't know where the platform is. He didn't know where to find anything here once he actually thought about it. This Potter kid didn't either. He wasn't that much of a help. Naruto raised his eyebrow when he noticed a family with red hair pushing the same cart as him and this Potter kid. The woman was telling her family that platform 9 3/4 was this way. What way is that? Naruto decided to just follow them. He motioned for the Potter kid to follow him, which he did without question. He came to a stop when the family stopped in front of a pillar labeled 9 and 10. He raised an eyebrow when one of the redheads ran right through the pillar. Naruto walked up to the woman. Excuse me, how do you get through the platform? The woman put hand on his shoulder and started to explain, all you do is run straight at the wall. Don't worry, it's Ron's first time at Hogwarts as well. Might want to get a running start. Naruto looked at Ron and waved slightly. The redhead waved back. Naruto positioned himself in front of the platform entrance. Did this woman really want him to run into the wall? This didn't make too much sense, but neither did anything else lately. Naruto ran towards the wall expecting a collision, but widened his eyes in surprise when he went through it. He looked around and saw a red and black train that said, "The Hogwarts Express." Naruto grinned and walked over to the person who was taking the kids' pets and carts. Naruto lifted his trunk off the cart with ease and walked onto the train. He walked down the aisle until he found an empty compartment. He opened the sliding door and hoisted his trunk onto a shelf above where he was going to sit. The young blonde sat down and frowned when he looked out the window. He saw all the kids getting hugs from their parents. What must it be like? Naruto smiled when he felt the train give a jolt and watched as the train station left his view and just saw fields and even more fields pass by them. This was probably going to be a boring ride. The view sucked as well. It was boring with nothing special to look at. Naruto heard the compartment door open and looked over to see a girl with brown bushy hair holding her trunk with one hand and holding the door open with her other. Mind if I sit here? Everywhere else is kind of full. Naruto nodded and motioned for her to come in. The girl smiled and hoisted her trunk onto the shelf with some trouble. She sat down across from him. I'm Hermione Granger. Naruto looked at her for a second. Naruto Uzumaki. I am so excited to attend Hogwarts. I am the first witch in my family. My mom and dad were a bit nervous about it at first, I think, but I knew they would let me attend because when I told them about it, they were very happy for me. Hermione looked at Naruto. Were your parents happy for you? Naruto's smile dropped from his face. My parents are dead. Hermione looked shocked and said, I am sorry to hear that. Don't worry about it. What house do you want to get sorted into? Gryffindor and Ravenclaw sound the best. Hermione asked, her attention shifting between the blonde and the window. I really don't know. Well, what one do you think sounds the best? I don't know. Didn't you read about them? She asked, looking quizzical. Naruto shook his head. Nope, I haven't read anything yet, didn't have enough time. Hermione nodded and was about to say something else before a voice interrupted her. Anything sweet off the trolley, dears? Naruto looked at Hermione. You hungry? Receiving a nod, he stood up and bought 2 of everything and sat down with all of the sweets. The old woman walked down to the next compartment and Naruto shut the door with his foot and motioned for Hermione to come sit next to him. Hermione sat next to Naruto and took a piece. Help yourself, I bought 2 of everything for a reason, you know. Hermione gave a slight smile. You didn't have to buy me candy, you know. Naruto grabbed a chocolate frog from the pile of sweets. Would you rather have bought it yourself? I couldn't even if I wanted to. I don't have any money. Naruto opened the wizarding card and caught the frog as it tried to jump away. Don't fret about that. I bought you candy because I wanted to, not because I had to. Naruto, can I ask you a question? Naruto nodded while ripping off the chocolate frog's head off. Have you practiced any spells yet? Naruto shook his head negative. Have you? Yep. I tried some spells and they all worked for me. That's good. You're going to be a better witch than I ever could be. Hermione looked at the whiskered blonde with confusion. What do you mean? Naruto started to dig through his candy stash. I think you have more potential in this magic thing than I do. Hermione bit off the tip of a licorice wand. Well, thank you. Yep. Hermione looked out the window and noticed it was getting dark. Do you think we will be arriving soon? Naruto glanced out the window and felt himself start to get a little impatient. Let's hope so because my ass is starting to hurt. Hermione smiled and finished off her licorice wand. Naruto, may I ask you a question? Naruto nodded and couldn't help but feel bummed when he realized he was running out of candy. Are we friends? Naruto looked up at Hermione, forgetting about his candy issue. What? Hermione, a little nervous, asked again. Are we friends? Of course we are. All the nervousness she felt went away and she smiled. Naruto swore when he ran out of candy, all that sweet goodness was gone. Such a sad train ride. Naruto stepped out of the compartment followed by Hermione when the train finally came to a stop. He noticed all the first years walking towards a giant man. He started to follow them and noticed the Potter kid talking to Ron. Naruto stopped in front of the giant man and listened. First years, follow me. The giant man started to walk down a trail that led them closer to a lake. Naruto raised an eyebrow when they stopped behind a bunch of little boats, only 4 to a boat. He stepped onto a boat and sat down, followed by Hermione sitting right next him. Naruto looked at the 2 other kids who entered the boat. He raised an eyebrow at the kid holding onto a toad for what seemed like dear life. The other kid was well short. Naruto looked at Hermione who had a look of awe on her face. He looked in her direction and his eyes widened. The school was huge. It was a giant castle with a bunch of towers. The boats continued to move towards the castle and started going into a tunnel that went under the school a little while later. All the boats came to a stop in front of a stone dock. Naruto got out of the boat and turned around to help Hermione out. Hagrid banged on the door, only for it to open up and reveal an old woman with a stern look. She was wearing green robes and a pointy hat. I'll take it from here, Hagrid. Hagrid nodded and left. The woman looked at all the first years. Please follow me. Naruto walked through the door and groaned when he saw all of the stairs they had to climb. Snape sat down in his seat in the Great Hall. He was curious to where Naruto would be sorted. The kid greatly interested him. He could perform wandless magic, or at least what he thought it was. He was curious as to how the blonde was able to transform into someone without a potion. He didn't say anything either. He didn't even really move when he thought more on it. When he went to go pick the boy up, he thought it was going to be a tedious task with some brat that would ask a million questions, but Naruto proved to be different. He didn't ask a whole lot of questions, and when he did it wasn't about Dumbledore or what house was the best. It was potions, which he was a little biased about, and necessary questions. He turned out to be a little amusing with the owl and the name he picked for it. Snape watched McGonagall walk into the hall followed by the group of first years, and he hoped that Naruto would be put in Slytherin. Naruto looked at the giant doors in front of him. Why did all of the doors have to be so big? Couldn't they be normal size? Plus, why was everyone staring at Harry like he was some kind of god? Surely the kid couldn't be that special. He was brought out of his thoughts when Professor McGonagall started speaking. Welcome to Hogwarts, said Professor McGonagall. The start of term banquet will begin shortly, but before you take your seats in the Great Hall, you will be sorted into your houses. The sorting is a very important ceremony because, while you are here, your house will be something like your family within Hogwarts. You will have classes with the rest of your house, sleep in your house dormitory, and spend free time in your house common room. The 4 houses are called Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Each house has its own noble history, and each has produced outstanding witches and wizards. While you are at Hogwarts, your triumphs will earn your house points, while any rule breaking will lose house points. At the end of the year, the house with the most points is awarded the House Cup, a great honor. I hope each of you will be a credit to whichever house becomes yours. The sorting ceremony will take place in a few minutes in front of the rest of the school. I suggest you all smarten yourselves up as much as you can while you are waiting. Her eyes lingered for a moment on Neville's cloak, which was fastened under his left ear, and on Ron's smudged nose. Harry nervously tried to flatten his hair. I shall return when we are ready for you, said Professor McGonagall. Please wait quietly. With that, she left the chamber. Naruto sighed when he heard everyone start whispering excitedly among themselves. He felt a tug on his robes and looked at Hermione. How do you think they're going to sort us? She asked. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I have no clue, but I bet it won't be too complicated. Hermione nodded and looked at Professor McGonagall who came back. Follow me, the sorting ceremony is about to start. Naruto and Hermione followed the rest of the first years into a giant hall that had 4 long tables lined up. One thing he noticed was that each table had a different color on the inside of their robes. He felt another tug on his robe and saw Hermione looking at him. Look at the ceiling. It's not really the night sky, it's just bewitched. I read about that in Hogwarts, a history. Naruto grinned at her. Did it tell you how they did it? Hermione shook her head. No, but I am going to look it up. Maybe even do it to my own bedroom. Naruto quietly laughed while looking up at the staff table and saw Snape staring at him. He gave a small wave. Getting a nod in return. Naruto and the rest of the first years came to a slow halt in front of the steps that McGonagall was standing on. McGonagall cleared her throat, instantly quieting the hall down. When I call your name, you will come up and set the sorting hat on your head and you'll be sorted into your houses. She looked around making sure everyone was listening to her. McGonagall unrolled a piece of parchment and started to call out names. Susan Bones. Susan's face turned red as she walked up to the hat. She sat down on the stool. Once the hat was set on her head it yelled Hufflepuff. The Hufflepuff table started to cheer and Susan took off the hat and ran towards the Hufflepuff table. Once she sat down, McGonagall called the next student. Neville Longbottom. Neville slowly walked up to the stool and put the hat on, Gryffindor. Neville quickly got off of the stool and ran towards the Gryffindor table with the hat on. Naruto smiled slightly as he came back and handed the hat to McGonagall, his face flushed. Hermione Granger. Naruto watched Hermione run up and practically shove the hat onto her head. Mental that one, I'm telling you. Naruto turned his attention towards Ron and glared at him. Ron looked over at Naruto and turned a light shade of crimson. Naruto slowly drew his attention back towards Hermione while keeping an eye on Ron and Harry. Hermione waited a bit anxiously for the hat to make its decision and she grinned when it was finally made, Gryffindor. Hermione threw the hat off and ran towards the Gryffindor table. Ronald Weasley. Ron gulped and walked up towards the hat. He sat down and put the hat on his head and let out a small squeak when it started talking to him. Another Weasley. I know just what to do with you. Gryffindor. Ron sighed in relief, took off the hat and ran towards the Gryffindor table and sat next to Neville. McGonagall looked around once more. Draco Malfoy. Draco walked up to the stool and before the hat even touched his head it yelled, Slytherin. Draco smirked and walked towards the Slytherin table with strut. Harry Potter. The hall went silent as everyone looked at Harry walking towards the hat. He put on the hat and ignored the whispering crowd. The hat looked down at Harry. Difficult, very difficult. A lot of courage I see, not a bad mind either and a thirst to prove yourself. Naruto raised an eyebrow. This was taking too long. Not Slytherin, eh? You could be great, you know it's alright here in your head, no. Better be Gryffindor. A big grin came onto his face as he ran towards the Gryffindor table. Naruto rolled his eyes when he heard Ron's siblings yelling, we got Potter. Naruto looked back up at McGonagall waiting to hear the next person to be called. McGonagall cleared her throat to silence the hall. Once it was silent she continued, Naruto Uzumaki. The entire hall was deathly silent, maybe it was because he was foreign, either way they were overreacting a bit. He noticed he got most of the professor's attention as well. Though they seemed to differ from the students. While the students were silent from curiosity because of his foreign background. The professors looked surprised for reasons he couldn't figure out. He sat on the stool and placed the hat on his head. Ignoring everyone who was looking at him. He even noticed that he had Hermione and Draco's full attention. No pressure. You are difficult as well, extremely difficult. You have a clever mind and a thirst for power. You have lots of courage as well, I see. You would fit in any house that I decided to put you in. Especially Hufflepuff. Very hardworking and loyal. You are cunning, ambitious, and incredibly resourceful. Naruto glanced over at Ron who was talking to Hermione and glared at him a bit. The Sorting Hat started to chuckle lightly. Yes, he made my decisions, Slytherin. Naruto saw the smile drop off of Hermione's face. He gave an apologetic wave and walked over to the Slytherin table. He sat himself next to Draco and slightly nudged him. I was worried there for a second, thought you were going to be in Gryffindor. That is probably the worst house in this school. That's what my father said at least. Alright. Draco looked up to see a person get sorted into Hufflepuff. I think Hufflepuff is second to worst. Naruto looked over at the Hufflepuff table. They don't seem too bad. The hat mentioned I could make a good one. Draco smirked, just wait till you get to know them, my father works with some of them. He says they're better than Gryffindor, but lower than Ravenclaw and Slytherin. Seems like you got lucky. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Don't you have any of your own opinions? Draco looked at Naruto, what do you mean? Naruto glanced at the Gryffindor table and saw Hermione talking to the Potter kid. I mean, do you believe everything your dad says? Have you tried to get to know anyone in Hufflepuff or Gryffindor? Draco shook his head. I agree with him a lot and yes I have. Have you seen that Weasley kid? Naruto shook his head. I am not talking about that red-headed ass. I am talking about anyone else. Draco shook his head again. I see no point. Naruto sighed and looked over at the head table. Albus Dumbledore had gotten to his feet. He was beaming at the students, his arms opened wide, as if nothing could have pleased him more than to see them all there. Welcome, he said. Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts. Before we begin our banquet, I would like to say a few words. And here they are. Nitwit. Blubber. Oddment. Tweak. Naruto's mouth dropped open when he saw the plates in front of him become loaded with food. He swore he could feel a bit of drool drip from his lip when he saw the roast beef, roast chicken, pork chops and lamb chops, sausages, bacon and steak, boiled potatoes, roast potatoes, fries, Yorkshire pudding, peas, carrots, gravy, ketchup, and, for some strange reason, peppermint humbugs. He started to pile his plate with all of the meat before he added the potatoes and gravy, a hearty meal. Draco looked at Naruto and grinned, like meat. Like it? I fucking love it. Naruto glanced at Draco who was staring at him with shock. What? Have you never heard some say fuck before? If you're going to try and be my friend you need to get fucking used to it, understand? Draco nodded and went back to his meal. Naruto sighed and started to get lost in his forest of meat. What classes are you interested in, Naruto? Draco asked as he bit into a piece of his pork chops. Oceans and defense against the dark hearts. They sound fun and dangerous. Naruto looked around the table and saw a couple of girls glancing his way and giggling. Yeah, I would have to agree. Mainly because I am good at those. Naruto heard someone snort and looked up and saw a dark-skinned boy sitting in front of him. You good at magic, Draco? Don't make me laugh. Shut it, Blaze. Draco piled more meat onto his plate and glared at his friend. I'm better than you are. After a good hour and a half of getting fat and bloated, their meals and desserts disappeared. Naruto looked up at Professor Dumbledore and got to his feet again. The hall fell silent. Ahern, just a few more words now that we are all fed and watered. I have a few start of term notices to give you. First years should note that the forest on the grounds is forbidden to all pupils. And a few of our older students would do well to remember that as well. Dumbledore's twinkling eyes flashed in the direction of the Weasley twins. I have also been asked by Mr. Filch, the caretaker, to remind you all that no magic should be used between classes in the corridors. Quidditch trials will be held in the second week of the term. Anyone interested in playing for their house team should contact Madam Hooch. And finally, I must tell you that this year, the third floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death. Draco's mouth fell open. HEC can't be serious. Blaze rolled his eyes. He obviously is seeing as he is warning the school. And now, before we go to bed, let us sing the school song. Cried Dumbledore. Naruto shook his head. There was no way in hell he was going to sing. Dumbledore gave his wand a little flick, as if he was trying to get a fly off the end, and a long golden ribbon flew out of it, which rose high above the tables and twisted itself, snake-like, into words. Everyone pick their favorite tune, said Dumbledore, and off we go. And the school bellowed. Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy-Warty Hogwarts, teach us something please, whether we be old and bald or young with scabby knees, our heads could do with filling with some interesting stuff, for now they're bare and full of air, dead flies and bits of fluff, so teach us things worth knowing, bring back what we forgot, just do your best, we'll do the rest, and learn until our brains all rot. Everybody finished the song at different times. At last, only the Weasley twins were left singing along to a very slow funeral march. Dumbledore conducted their last few lines with his wand, and when they had finished, he was one of those who clapped loudest. Ah, music, he said, wiping his eyes. A magic beyond all we do here. And now, bedtime. Off you trot. Naruto followed the rest of the Slytherins out of the Great Hall. He had come to the conclusion that Dumbledore was a lunatic. Naruto sat in the Slytherin common room. The firing roaring in front of him. Kind of a weird place to be in, it was under the lake which made the lights green. Naruto looked up at the person who sat next to him. What do you need? Draco looked at Naruto. Just curious as to what you're doing. Naruto leaned back against the couch he was sitting on. I am just thinking about how this year will turn out. I hope it goes well. After all, we are in Slytherin. Naruto noticed the way Draco sounded superior to everyone when he said that. Draco, you really need to stop acting like you're superior to everyone around you. Draco looked a bit shocked at what Naruto said. What do you mean? I mean every time you talk about being in Slytherin you make it sound like it's the best. It could be the best, I wouldn't know, but I am sure everyone thinks their house is the best. I think you should just tone it down. It's getting pretty annoying. Draco sat there for a minute and thought. Naruto continued to speak. It's good that you hold your house and family in high regard. But if you keep boasting like you do, I think you will be humiliated someday. I mean, think about it, what would happen if your family failed on a mission or something like that? Especially an important one. Naruto stopped talking to see if Draco was still listening, which he was, and that surprised Naruto. Naruto thought he would have told him off by now. My old sensei, or teacher, or however you want to put it. His dad killed himself. His dad went on a mission and it went wrong. One of his comrades was captured and he saved his teammate instead of completing his mission. My village shunned him because of it. His dad was held in high regard, but because he chose to save his teammate, all of the respect he had from the village was gone. I guess what I am trying to say is, be careful of what you hold in high regards. So like Slytherin house, I heard people say we're selfish. I can tell some people are just by the way they were talking to each other at the feast. They sound like people that would abandon their friends to save themselves, those people are complete trash. Are you those kinds of people, Draco? Is your family? No one's status is forever. One mess up in your family, this house, you could fall from that golden throne into a giant steaming pile of shit. Faster than you would think possible. Just think about that. Naruto got up and walked down the stairs towards his dormitory, leaving Draco by himself on the couch to let him think about what his blonde housemate just told him. Naruto walked down the steps until he found doors with the names of the students on them. He looked at the first door and read the names. Draco Malfoy, Grigory Goyle, Vincent Crabbe, Blaise Zabini. Naruto kept walking until he found his door. His mood went sour when he saw the door. Naruto Uzumaki was the only name on the door, of course he was alone. Even when he comes to a school filled with thousands of kids he is the odd one out. Naruto opened the door and looked around the room. It was probably the same size as his apartment, though he could tell it was bigger. His apartment was a bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, and living room all in one, so it wasn't a very big apartment, but it worked for him. Naruto looked around some more and noticed there was only one bed with 4 pillars and green and silver curtains to give him some privacy. Not like Naruto needed it, he had plenty of privacy. The bed also had green sheets and silver pillows. The Slytherin colors. Naruto walked up to the bed and noticed that a desk was on one side and a dresser was on the other side. 2 windows were on the left and right side of his bed with torches hanging on the walls. Naruto turned around and saw a circular fireplace in the middle of his room. He walked over to his trunk which was placed in front of his bed and pulled out his potions textbook and figured he could read a little bit before he went to bed. Can you believe that, kid? Harry looked at Ron. Did someone do something to you? Ron nodded his head in confirmation. That Naruto kid glared at me while we were being sorted. Harry shook his head. He knew Naruto was friends with Hermione. That kid was someone they were going to have to watch out for or befriend him so he would be on their side. He didn't know why Ron disliked Hermione. She didn't seem like such a bad person, bossy perhaps, but that's really about it. She was a little bossy on the train when she asked if she could sit by them, but his red-headed friend told her no instantly. Harry felt a bit bad for her, but it went away once the trolley came along. Harry looked at Ron messing with the fire. He heard him mumbling about Naruto being a nasty Slytherin. With a heavy sigh Harry stood up. I am going to bed, Ron. Good night. I'll come with, I am dead tired. Harry nodded and led them up the stairs. Hermione watched Ron follow Harry up the stairs. She heard what Ron had said about her and then saw the glare Naruto gave him. It showed that she at least made one friend here at Hogwarts. But she felt like she needed friends in her own house. She closed her book and went upstairs towards her dorm. She needed to get some rest, she had a feeling tomorrow was going to be a long day. End. Year 1. Chapter 2. Fame isn't everything. Naruto walked out of the Slytherin common room as fast as he could, his cloak flowing behind him. He had to get away from Pansy Parkinson, the girl was a nightmare, he didn't even know her for a full 2 hours and she was already trying to feel the whisker-like marks on his cheeks. Yes, he looks irresistible with those marks, he already knew that. But seriously, to keep on rubbing them over and over again was annoying. He didn't purr or anything like that, so what was so interesting about them? Asking him about them was just fine, but pushing him onto the couch to hold him down and try and rub them was a little bit much. He would have let her feel them if she just asked. She also asked him a lot of questions as well, like how he got those scars. They were not scars. She also asked what blood status he was. Seriously, why does everyone in Slytherin ask that question? Naruto slowed down, hoping he was far away from Pansy. He didn't want to speak to her for the next day or so. Draco the traitor just laughed and urged Pansy on. Oh, Draco will regret doing that. Naruto looked behind him and saw his so-called friend running up to him laughing. How did that feel? Draco laughed a bit more before trying to calm down. Naruto looked at Draco with annoyance. I didn't think it was that funny. Draco started to laugh again. Of course you didn't. You were the one who was being sat on. She's not fat. Not like she was heavy or anything, just had a stronger grip than I thought she would have. Draco shook his head. You're going to meet some of her friends, you know. They might want to try and feel your whisker marks as well, better be prepared. Naruto smirked. That's why if they run at me, I would throw you into them. Draco paled a little. You wouldn't really do that, would you? Naruto nodded. Of course I would. You just sat there and laughed at my discomfort, so I will laugh at yours. Draco stopped walking. I thought we were friends. Naruto looked back at Draco. Are you seriously worried about being mauled by a bunch of girls? Ever seen a mad woman? I don't envy my father when my mother is mad at him. She threatened to castrate him on whatever that means. Naruto walked up to Draco. When a woman says she is going to castrate you, you should run as far as possible. He shuddered at what Anko had tried to do to Kakashi for checking out another woman at a bar. Also, when a woman says she is going to castrate you, it means she is going to cut your balls off. Draco paled. That is horrible. Naruto nodded with amusement. Just remember, even though Pansy is 11 doesn't mean she can't be a major bitch. Naruto remembered Kakashi saying those exact words, though he wasn't talking about an 11-year-old girl. More like he was talking about Anko. To think about it, every time Kakashi talked about how rude women could be, he always mentioned Anko. Anko and all women were like her, hopefully. Naruto decided to stop thinking about all this and decided to get to the Great Hall for breakfast. He was hungry and wanted to get the day going right. With a lot of food in his stomach. He could also probably talk to Hermione for a bit. Naruto stopped walking instantly. Naruto, do you have a tattoo on your neck? Naruto shook his head. Nope, I'm cursed. Draco chuckled, yeah right. Draco pushed Naruto forward, making him move. Naruto walked into the Great Hall followed by Draco. He came to stop and looked around for Hermione sitting at the Gryffindor table next to Harry Potter and Ron Weasley. I'll meet you at the Slytherin table in a minute, Draco. Draco nodded and walked over to the table and sat next to Blaze Zabini, Vincent Crabbe, Gregory Goyle, and to his distaste, Pansy Parkinson. Naruto walked over to the Gryffindor table and sat down next to Hermione, morning Hermione. Hermione stopped talking to Ron and looked at him and smiled. Morning, Naruto. Naruto grabbed a piece of toast, sleep well? Yep. I woke up early to do some light reading. What book? Hermione glanced at Ron and saw him glaring at the blonde next to her. The standard book of spells. It has a lot of useful spells in it. I might read it then. Hermione was about to say something when Ron cut in. Go back to your table you filthy Slytherin. Naruto glanced at Ron, I am not moving. Yes you are. Are you going to make me? Naruto asked, setting his piece of toast down. Ron nodded, yeah, I will. Come and try it. I am right here. Ron was about to get up when he saw Professor McGonagall walking up to them. She looked at Naruto, Mr. Uzumaki, we need you to go back to your table. Your schedules are going to be passed out. Naruto nodded and McGonagall walked away. Bye Hermione. Bye Naruto. Naruto stood up and nodded towards Harry while giving Ron the two-finger salute. Hermione watched Naruto go and sit at the Slytherin table across from Draco. She sighed, only if he was placed in Gryffindor. She looked back at Ron who was stuffing his face and talking about how all Slytherins are somehow up to no good. Hermione rolled her eyes and continued to eat her breakfast. Naruto sat down and started to eat some of the breakfast that was laid out on the table. He looked up and raised an eyebrow at the people staring at him. What? Blaze answered him, why were you sitting and talking to that mudblood? Are you talking about Hermione? Naruto asked, his eyes narrowing. You shouldn't be hanging out with people like her. Naruto looked at Draco and saw that he was glaring at the Weasleys. He turned his attention back to Blaze. Why shouldn't I? You are obviously not a true Slytherin if you don't know the answer to that question. Blaze replied, annoyance dripping off of every word. Naruto looked at Draco who was looking between him and Blaze. He shifted his gaze over to Crabbe and Goyle, who seemed to be caught up in their own world and weren't paying attention. His gaze then shifted over to Pansy who just smiled at him. He finally looked back at Blaze, don't insult me or Hermione. If I hear you say anything bad about her or me, I will personally kick your ass into next week. I will make sure you won't wake up for a good amount of time. Blaze looked at Draco and Pansy to see if they were going to back him up. When he realized he wasn't going to have backup, he glared back at the blonde. You couldn't fight me and win if your pathetic life depended on it. Naruto gave Blaze a mild look. Are you positive about that? I will even bet money on it. I don't want your money. Seeing you on the floor bleeding will be enough. Blaze was going to say something when they noticed Snape handing out their schedules. We will settle this after breakfast. Naruto thanked Snape for his schedule and looked at the four people sitting next to Blaze. You four are coming with. They all nodded and continued to eat their breakfast. Noticing everyone getting up to go to their first period class. He looked at Blaze. Let's go. With a nod he stood up and followed Naruto out of the Great Hall. Naruto waved at Hermione before turning and headed towards the dungeons. Hermione looked at the group retreating into the dungeons with confusion. Why weren't they going to class? Hermione hesitantly walked off towards class, she couldn't be late on her first day. Naruto continued towards the Slytherin common room before stopping and turned to face Blaze and the others. Since you think I can't beat you, I will choose the rules. Blaze nodded. Naruto looked at Draco, might want to give us some room. Draco nodded and motioned for Pansy, Crabbe and Goyle to step back. Naruto looked back at Blaze. There are not going to be any rules, anything goes. Blaze nodded and quickly pulled out his wand, pointing it at his target. Before Blaze could even start saying anything, Naruto closed the gap between them, planting his fisting into his gut, lifting Blaze off of the ground. Not giving his opponent any time to catch his breath, Naruto instantly grabbed the back of Blaze's head and slammed his face into his knee, knocking him over onto his back. Naruto grabbed Blaze by the collar of his shirt and pulled him onto his feet and slammed his back against the wall, which was immediately followed by a right hook to his nose. Breaking it. Draco cringed when he heard Naruto's fist make contact with Blaze's jaw. He didn't envy Blaze at this moment and made a mental note to stay on Naruto's good side. Naruto grabbed Blaze by the hem of his shirt and threw him onto the ground, ignoring the sound of flesh hitting stone. Blaze slowly climbed onto his knees and raised his hands in defeat. Naruto, stop. Naruto relaxed himself and looked at Blaze, who was breathing rather hard and shaking a bit. Naruto looked at Pansy and noticed her worried look. He turned his attention towards Blaze and stared at him. He wasn't exactly paying attention to him as he was just staring into space, thinking about what happened. That was a bit much. He didn't plan on doing that. He planned on doing a little bit of damage, but not that much. Naruto kneeled beside Blaze and chopped his neck, knocking him unconscious. He rolled Blaze onto his stomach and wiped some of the blood off his face. Picking him up, Naruto started making his way to the hospital wing. Naruto silently walked into the hospital wing and looked around to see if the healer was around. Seeing no signs of her, he walked over to the closet bed and set Blaze down on it. Immediately walking out of the hospital wing and towards his class. Pansy looked at Blaze, then quickly followed after Naruto. She was already late as it was, and it seemed Blaze wasn't too injured. Madame Pomfrey could probably fix him up without a problem. Draco didn't follow Naruto right away. He looked at Blaze for a minute, trying to squash any guilt he may have had before motioning Crab and Goyle to follow him to class. Naruto walked into class and stopped and looked for Professor McGonagall. He looked at Pansy when he couldn't see a trace of their professor. Where is she? Pansy shrugged and then pointed in front of her. Naruto looked forward and saw McGonagall looking at him. Why are you five so late? Where is Blaze? We got lost and we don't know where Blaze is. He told us he would meet us here and then left by himself. Naruto replied, immediately putting his hands behind his back. He should have cleaned up before he arrived. McGonagall stared at him for a minute and Naruto just stared right back. She wasn't going to break him. McGonagall sighed, please take your seats and copy down the notes. Naruto nodded and took a seat in front of Hermione. Hermione got even more confused and suspicious when she noticed the blood covering Naruto's hands. Naruto looked back at her and nodded his head and turned his attention back towards the front of the class, cleaning the blood off of his hands with his cloak. He looked at Pansy who decided to sit next to him. He swore to God if she tried to touch his face, he didn't exactly know what he would do to her. Naruto copied all the notes down. All the notes told him how to turn a match into a needle. He didn't think they needed it, but maybe it was a training kind of thing. He didn't know which kind of bummed him out. He should have kicked Blaze's ass faster so he could have listened to McGonagall's lecture. He could always ask Hermione as well. Naruto closed his notebook and put his quill away and leaned back in his chair. This was going to be a long class, and the fact that Pansy kept on glaring at Ron was starting to get annoying. Maybe they would get in a fight and Pansy would kick his ass, though Naruto doubted Ron would complain. He probably would enjoy it. Naruto didn't exactly like Ron, he thought he was quick to temper and got jealous way too easy. He also noticed that Ron hated the Slytherin house with a passion. It didn't seem like Ron had anything against him until he was sorted into Slytherin. The overgrown leprechaun needed to get to know people before he thought badly of them. Naruto looked back at Pansy and saw she continued to write down her notes. She would have been done by now if she didn't have a glaring contest with the Weasley. Naruto sighed, this was extremely boring. Snape walked into the hospital wing to see a first-year Slytherin lying in a bed unconscious with dried blood covering the lower portion of his face. What happened here? Seems he was in a fight with another Slytherin. Snape looked at Blaze with an annoyed expression. This idiot and the other Slytherin just probably cost his house a lot of points, and the annoying thing was he was going to have to take the points away from them. Who was the other student? Madame Pomfrey looked at Snape, it was Naruto Uzumaki. He didn't come into the hospital wing, so I am assuming he wasn't injured. Snape looked a little surprised. He was going to ask Naruto to stay after class today, but it seems he would just have to give him detention. A lot of detentions. Where did you find Mr. Zabini? Madame Pomfrey forced a potion down Blaze's throat. I found him lying in this bed. I am guessing Mr. Uzumaki must have left him here. Is there anything wrong with Mr. Zabini? He has a broken nose. He also had some minor bleeding, nothing I can't fix. Though I am surprised a first year was put into this state. Snape nodded, to be honest, he wasn't too surprised that Naruto caused this much damage. The kid was a prodigy and where he came from they practically trained him in the art of combat. He didn't know they were trained at such a young age, but Dumbledore told him everything. Snape walked out of the hospital wing and went to Naruto's first class. Naruto was sleeping on his desk when he felt someone punch him in the arm. He lifted his head off the desk and glared at Pansy, what the hell do you want? Pansy ignored Naruto's rude remark and pointed towards Snape and McGonagall. He sat up straight and watched them curiously. Naruto looked at McGonagall when she started to speak. Naruto, if you would please go with Professor Snape. Nodding, he grabbed his bag and followed Snape out of the classroom. Hermione watched Naruto leave. She knew this had something to do with Blaze and him being really late. When he left the classroom, Hermione looked back at the front of the class and saw Pansy Parkinson looking at Naruto. Pansy looked away when Naruto finally left the room and turned her attention back to the front of the class. Naruto walked behind Snape, he didn't know where Snape was taking him. All he knew was that they were heading towards the dungeons. He also knew why Snape came to get him, they must have found Blaze lying in the hospital wing and did a memory charm or something. He forgot you could do that with magic hoops. Naruto and Snape walked down into the dungeons and now had a guess as to where they were going. It was probably Snape's office. How much trouble would he be in? Probably a lot. Naruto followed Snape into his classroom and into his office. Snape sat behind his desk and motioned for Naruto to sit down. He sat down as requested and waited for Snape to start yelling or whatever the professors here do. Why did you do it? Naruto looked at Snape with confusion. Wasn't he going to never mind? Blaze insulted me and my friend Hermione. He told me I wasn't a true Slytherin, so I told him I would kick his ass into next week if he insulted me or Hermione again. He said I wouldn't be able to, even if my pathetic life depended on it, so he and I fought and I won. Snape stared at Naruto. He didn't expect Naruto to actually tell the truth. Language Naruto. You will not be expelled or suspended. You will receive a month's worth of detention from me. Here in my office at the end of the day, every day, is that clear? Naruto nodded, deciding to play this one smart. Don't think you are the only one being punished. Blaze is going to receive the same punishment just at the start of the day instead. Also 50 points from each of you. Naruto sighed and nodded. So is that all or is there something else? Yes there is. What class interests you the most? Naruto sat there for a minute. What class seemed the most interesting? I would probably have to say well I can't exactly decide between 3 classes. Snape was quiet for a moment. What are they? Naruto thought for a moment, not of the classes, but the reasons he interested him the most. Potions class is one of them because it seems you can do a lot of useful things with it. Like create a poison or turn yourself into other people. Snape nodded, glad he chose that class. My second class would have to be defense against the dark arts. Not for the reasons you would think. I don't care how to defend myself, well I do, but I am more interested in the curses we will be defending ourselves against. I think they could be useful. Snape nodded, a bit surprised at his reason. My third would have to be, for now, flying, because I think it sounds awesome to be able to fly on a broom, said Naruto, a bit uncertain about the last one. Snape looked at Naruto curiously. The classes Naruto picked he could help him with, well except for flying, but that didn't matter because Madame Hooch would help him with that. Naruto, what would you say if I offered to tutor you in a way, basically train you? Just you and I, private lessons on the weekends. Naruto thought for a minute. I would say yes. Our lessons will be on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. After you serve your detention for that day, we will then start your lessons. That works for me. I will teach you different kinds of potions that we won't do during class. I will also teach you curses and other useful spells, but you can't tell anybody about these lessons. Naruto nodded. This was like his training with Kakashi when he was learning the Chidori. He wasn't allowed to tell anyone because they would most likely throw a fit. Snape stood up. It's time for your potions class to start. Go ahead and pick a table to sit at. Naruto nodded and walked into the classroom and found a table near the front of the room. He sat down and dropped his bag onto the floor, hoping potions was interesting as it sounded. Naruto didn't have to wait very long for the class to show up. He noticed Slytherin was paired with Gryffindor for this class, not like he cared. Well, the only problem about Gryffindor was Ron, other than that it wasn't that bad of a house. Naruto saw Hermione enter and waved her over. She walked over to him and sat next to him. Are we allowed to sit together? Who cares? Hermione shrugged her shoulders and dropped her bag on the ground, which made a loud thud. Naruto looked at her bag. How many books do you have in there? As many as I could fit. Their poor back. Hermione looked around the classroom and noticed that Ron and Harry had paired themselves together. What did Snape do to you? Naruto sighed. I have detention with him for a full month. Hermione looked at Naruto with surprise. What did you do? Naruto looked around to make sure nobody could hear them. I kind of broke Blaze's nose. Hermione just stared at him with shock on her face. How? Naruto didn't sound too concerned with Blaze, actually sounded like he didn't care that he broke Blaze's nose. I punched him in the face before you accuse me of anything. He and I were fighting. That's why I, Draco, Pansy, Crab, and Goyle were late to class. That's also the reason Blaze in the hospital wing. Hermione stared at him with disbelief on her face. It was actually making him feel a bit uncomfortable. What were you two fighting about? Naruto scratched the back of his head. Well, after I was done talking to you during breakfast, Blaze said I shouldn't hang out with muggle-born witches and wizards. He called you a mudblood and said I wasn't a true Slytherin. So I told him if he insulted you or me again I would kick his ass into next week. He said I couldn't, so after breakfast we went into the dungeons and we fought. I don't think he will insult me or you anytime soon. Hermione just stared at him some more. I must say that was immature, but thank you for sticking up for Metho. What's a mudblood? Naruto scratched his chin. You're welcome, and I don't really know. Snape came out of his office, slamming his door in the process. He stood in front of the class glaring at everyone in there. He looked at Naruto and noticed he paired himself with Hermione. Didn't surprise him too much, as she was one of the reasons he got in a fight. He looked back up at the class and glared, "I don't expect you will really understand the beauty of the softly simmering cauldron, with its shimmering fumes, the delicate power of liquids that creep through the human veins, bewitching the mind, ensnaring the senses can teach you how to bottle fame, brew glory, and even put a stopper in death." Naruto stared at Snape for what seemed like a couple minutes. You could stop death with a potion. Now that is something he would need in the future, he wondered if that would be something he would learn in the private lessons. Snape started roll call, he nodded his head every time someone said here. Snape looked over at Harry and walked straight towards his desk. Harry Potter. Harry raised his hand slightly, "Here, sir." Snape lowered the piece of parchment. "Mr. Potter, a new celebrity, you probably think this will probably be an easy class, don't you? Tell me, Mr. Potter, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" Hermione's hand instantly shot into the air and Harry looked stumped. "I don't really know, sir." Snape smirked slightly, "You don't know? Let's try again, where would you look if I told you to find me a bezier?" Harry looked up at Hermione, whose hand shot up into the air. Naruto thought for a minute and he raised his hand, he knew the answer. Harry looked at Snape. "I don't know, sir." Snape looked over the class, "As you can see, class, fame clearly isn't everything. Next time, Potter, I expect you to come to class prepared. Now let's get an answer from someone who isn't a complete dunderhead." Snape looked around the class. "Naruto. Please answer the question for us." "The bezier is a stone that is taken from the stomach of a goat and it will save you from most poisons." Snape smirked. "As you can see, Mr. Potter, it is wise to study before class, don't rely purely on your name. Also 5 points to Slytherin." Naruto swore he could hear Draco, Pansy, Crabbe, and Goyle silently laughing behind him. Naruto smiled slightly, at least they thought what Snape was doing was amusing. Naruto didn't exactly see the point of it. Naruto stopped thinking to pay attention to Snape. "Today we will be making an antidote for common poisons. The ingredients you will need are beziers, standard ingredient, ground unicorn horn and mistletoe berries. The instructions are on the board. You have 120 minutes to complete this potion. This will be to see where you stand in potion making. It will show me who needs the most help and who doesn't. Next class period, don't expect anything like today. Your time starts now, good luck, the majority of you will need it." Naruto got up and went to the ingredients cabinet and grabbed everything he needed. He walked back to his table and put the ingredients down and looked at Hermione. "You ready?" Hermione nodded and put the bezier into the mortar and started to crush it into fine powder with a pestle. When Hermione was done, she added 4 measurements of the bezier into their cauldron. Naruto grabbed 2 measurements of the standard ingredient and put it in their cauldron. Hermione turned the heat to medium for 5 seconds before turning it off. She waved her wand over the cauldron and left it to brew for 85 minutes. Naruto looked around the classroom and saw some people were still adding their ingredients. He looked at Hermione and saw her reading a book. Naruto turned his head towards Draco and saw him working with Pansy. It seemed like they were finished and were talking. His head quickly looked towards the left of him when heard something explode. Naruto saw 2 kids sitting on their stools and they were covered in the potion. Naruto looked at Hermione and saw her staring at them. "You know them? That's Seamus Finnegan and Neville Longbottom. They both blew up their match today in Transfiguration." Naruto smiled lightly, "And of course, I missed it." Hermione opened her book and started to read. "You wouldn't have missed it if you didn't get in trouble." Naruto pulled out the standard book of spells and started to read it, hoping the 85 minutes would go by faster. Naruto looked at the time and closed his book. It was time to finish their potion and hopefully not make it explode. He tapped Hermione on the shoulder, "Let's finish this up." Hermione nodded and added 1 pinch of unicorn horn to their cauldron and stirred it 2 times, clockwise. Naruto added 2 mistletoe berries and stirred the potion 2 times anti-clockwise. He waved his wand over the potion, officially completing it. Naruto gave Hermione a small thumbs up. That wasn't too bad. The only bad part was waiting 85 minutes for the damn thing to brew. Hermione nodded and raised her hand, signaling that they were done. Snape came over and looked at their potion. "Very good, you two. It seems that you two work well together and didn't make any mistakes. 10 points to Slytherin and Gryffindor." Naruto smirked and looked over at Ron and saw glaring at him. Naruto gave him a thumbs down and started to talk to Hermione for the rest of the period. After Snape finished looking at the rest of the potions and telling Ron that you needed intelligence to make a potion, he went and stood in front of the class. "The period is almost over and you will have lunch next. I want you to write an essay about what we did and learned today. It must be 2 pages. You may leave when the bell rings." Snape walked into his office to get prepared for his next class. Naruto packed up all of his things and looked at Hermione. "Think you could help me with what I missed in Transfiguration?" Hermione put her book on the table and nodded. "Of course, just meet me in the library after lunch." "See you after lunch then." Hermione nodded again and went back to reading her book. Naruto got up and threw his bag on one shoulder and walked towards Draco and Pansy. "What did Snape say about your potion?" Draco looked up at Naruto. "Weren't you listening?" Not really. Draco put all of his things away and Naruto looked at Pansy. What did he say? Pansy looked at Naruto, he told us that we did a good job, but he didn't give us any points like he gave you. Naruto nodded, walking out of the classroom and towards the Great Hall, followed by Draco and Pansy. Naruto was sitting in between Pansy and Draco, at the moment he was having a half-hearted conversation with Pansy. I can't believe I didn't get any points in potions. I can believe it. The blonde replied, taking a bite out of his sandwich. Pansy took a bite of her own sandwich, it's complete bullshit. Naruto looked at Pansy, such a dirty mouth Pansy. Pansy looked at Naruto with a hint of amusement, you're one to talk. Now when have I ever said something bad? Pansy put herself in a thinking position, you told Draco to go fuck himself when he pushed me into you. Naruto looked at Draco to see him with a small smile on his face, what the hell are you smiling at? Draco took a quick bite of his food so he didn't have to answer. You know Pansy. I wouldn't have said that if you weren't so eager to touch my whisker marks. Pansy folded her arms, well if you didn't look so cute and tempting, I wouldn't have been so eager to touch them. Maybe I should just hide them then. Pansy shook her head a bit faster than Naruto expected she would, don't you dare cover them. I will just take off whatever you use to cover them. I will make it painful too. Naruto just continued staring at Pansy. He was just going to cover them with a genjutsu, but he decided not to cover them at all. He didn't know how rude and violent she could be. Alright, I won't cover them. Pansy smirked, that's what I thought. Naruto glared at Pansy and went back to his food. He was going to finish his sandwich in peace without being threatened. Draco decided to finally ask a question. How long do you think Blaze will be out? Naruto pushed his empty plate away from him, hopefully the rest of the year, but I would have to say maybe a couple of days. Yeah, you really did a number on him. Naruto folded his arms, he deserved it. Pansy nodded in agreement and Draco took another bite of his food. Hermione looked over at the Slytherin table to see if she could find Naruto, she was to be honest a bit excited to meet Naruto at the library after lunch. They were going to be alone. They weren't going to have Ron yelling at Naruto and Harry just watching them. They also weren't going to have Draco and Pansy with them as well, which was a good thing in her book, she didn't exactly like them at all. Before she sat with Naruto on the train she tried to sit with Draco, Pansy, and all of the other Slytherins. They didn't let her sit with them and they insulted her, so she tried to sit with Ron and Harry, which didn't work either. Then she sat next to Naruto and he let her of course, and he bought her a whole bunch of candy. Naruto wasn't the nicest person in the school of course, but he was nice to her all the time, even around his Slytherin friends he was nice to her. He wasn't the type of person to care what other people thought of him, well kind of. He did beat the crap out of Blaze, but yet again Blaze did start it and Naruto finished it. Hermione jumped when she heard an explosion, she looked over and saw Seamus Finnegan staring at his goblet in shock. His hair was sticking up everywhere and smoke was coming out of the goblet. Hermione looked back at Naruto and saw he was laughing along with the other Slytherins. She couldn't help but admit it was pretty funny, but she didn't want to make Seamus feel bad by laughing. She looked at Harry and Ron and noticed they were looking in the goblet, probably checking to see if he had managed to turn his water into rum. Which was obvious that he didn't, there probably wasn't even water in the goblet anymore. Naruto grabbed his bag and threw it on one shoulder and left the Great Hall when he heard the bell ring. He told Draco and Pansy that he would meet them at their next class, which was Defense Against the Dark Arts, which was after the 20-minute break they had after lunch. Naruto walked into the library and threw his bag onto the table, sat down and waited for Hermione to show up. Hopefully what they did in Transfiguration wasn't too hard. Hermione walked into the library and saw her blonde friend sitting at one of the tables next to the restricted section. She walked over and sat down next to him, you ready? Naruto nodded and pulled out his wand, his book and his notebook just in case. Hermione began to explain what they did. You were there for the notes, so I am just going to skip that part and go on to the next. She handed everyone a match, I still have mine so we will use that one. All you have to do is turn this match. Hermione pulled the match out of her bag into a needle. It's really easy once you know how to do it. What did we do after that? Hermione pulled out her notebook and started to write a title down. We have to write a 3-page essay on why this could be helpful and how it is done. Naruto sighed, of course there was an essay involved. There was always an essay. First potions now. Is there a certain word thing I need to say? Hermione nodded and pushed her notes towards him. Of course it was in the notes. Naruto read over the spell and began to work on turning the match into the needle. 10 minutes later he finally got the match turned into a needle. He could also turn it back into a match. Naruto grabbed the match and struck it across the table, lighting it up. Hermione snapped her head towards him and tried to take the match from him. Are you nuts? You could set one of the books on fire. Naruto looked at Hermione and lowered the match towards one of the books. Don't you dare, Naruto. He gave her a look that dared her to try and stop him. Feeling daring, she reached out and tried to grab the match, but he instantly pulled his hand away and started to laugh as he suffocated the flame with his thumb and pointer finger. Geez, Hermione, didn't know you cared that much about books. Naruto opened his notebook and started to write his essay while trying to stop his laughter. Hermione looked at Naruto like he was insane. Who would do that? Especially a book. He's laughing now, but would he be laughing if he accidentally put the match too close to the book and set it on fire? I see you have no respect for books. The blonde looked at Hermione with amusement. Of course I have respect for them, but it also depends on the book. My old professor Naruto realized they didn't know what a sensei was. Read these porno books, and one day he told me how to do a certain spell again. Naruto knew she didn't know what a jutsu was, and he wasn't about to explain it to her, and every time I asked him a question he would just nod. I got fed up with his shit and took the book from him and set the fucking thing on fire. Hermione stared at Naruto with wide eyes. She couldn't tell what upset her more, the fact that a professor was reading porn or that Naruto just cursed and didn't exactly whisper it. She looked around making sure a professor didn't hear him. She didn't want to exactly get in trouble. Naruto looked at Hermione. You don't have to worry about getting in trouble, you know. I doubt anyone heard me. Hermione stared at Naruto for a minute before going back to her essay. He looked at her essay and noticed it was more than 3 pages. You know you are done with that essay. I want to get the highest grade on this I can. Naruto went back to writing his essay. I doubt you would get a bad grade on it. Hermione started to write faster. What if Professor McGonagall is as strict as she sounds? I could fail because I didn't write a good enough essay. This needs to be perfect. Naruto rolled his eyes and grabbed her wrist to stop her from writing anything. Listen, you're not going to get a bad grade. McGonagall isn't as strict as she makes herself out to be. It's probably her way to keep her class in line, so stop freaking out so much. Hermione signed her name at the bottom of the page and closed her notebook. How strict was your perverted professor? He was strict when he was training me. He didn't want me to mess up at all. I guess he figured if he wasn't strict I wouldn't take him seriously. When we weren't training was another story. He was a complete lazy ass. But nice, not strict at all. He also has a psycho girlfriend. You wouldn't like her. She would burn every book you own just to see you cry. She did that to Kakashi. She set his entire porn collection on fire for saying she should wear something other than a stripper dress shirt. That's actually where I got the idea to set his book on fire. Naruto looked at Hermione and smiled sheepishly. I think I might have said too much. Hermione just stared at Naruto. How could his professor like a person who set a collection of books on fire just to make you cry? Naruto, why did you say when he was training me? Because he isn't my professor anymore. He has to train someone else. My village leader ordered it. With that they both sat in silence and did their homework until their next class started. Naruto walked out of Defense Against the Dark Arts. In his opinion, Professor Quirrell was a real dumbass. If he thought Naruto could understand him with his stuttering problem he deserved the title. How could anyone understand him? Even Hermione looked slightly confused, keyword slightly. She probably read all of the material out of the book. That meant she knew everything and didn't have to pay attention. He should have read the damn book so he could have goofed off with Pansy or Draco. Pansy. Naruto couldn't believe it. He was starting to warm up to her, which bothered him to no end. That meant he would probably become more lenient when she wanted to do something like rub his whiskers. Women at this school needed to realize that they would be just birthmarks. A couple of girls in his defense class wanted to touch them, even a couple of older women wanted to when he was walking in the housenet that he was complaining of course. He actually rubbed it in Draco's face that more women have touched and called him cute. Draco told him to hide his marks and see how many women wanted him then. Naruto agreed, made sure Pansy wasn't around and covered them with a genjutsu and walked into his defense class, right next to Draco and far away from Pansy. Draco slammed his head against the desk when all the girls still showed Naruto more attention than he needed. Naruto turned around to face a glaring Pansy. I thought I told you not to hide them. Yes you did say that, but I had a deal with Draco, and well, I won. Pansy pushed Naruto to get him walking towards their flying lessons. Oh really, what was the bet about? Naruto grinned, just how I am a ladies' man with or without my whiskers. Well then. If you are such a ladies' man where are all the women at? Naruto pointed towards the school with one hand and pointed towards their flying lesson with his other. In the school in our next class. Pansy looked away from Naruto. Don't be such a smart ass. I think I am rubbing off on you. Don't think so. I acted like this before I met you. Naruto shook his head. Now if I remember correctly, you squealed when you felt my amazing marks. I had a moment. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Is that supposed to make a difference? Yes it is. Well it doesn't. When I look at you I see the girl who squealed, not some hard ass. Pansy glared, I am not a squealer. Whatever you say Pansy. He replied, receiving a push in return. Alright I'll move. You don't have to be so pushy. Naruto stood next to his broom looking around at the rest of his peers and noticed everyone else was standing behind them. He looked at Ron standing across from him. "You are supposed to stand behind your broom." Naruto was about to retort when he heard Draco, "And you're not supposed to go around acting like a pig all day." Naruto smirked, "What can one expect when he is growing up in a barn?" Ron turned red in the face and glared at all of the laughing Slytherin kids. He was about to say something when he saw Madame Hooch walking towards them. She stopped walking when she was in between the Gryffindors and Slytherins. "Welcome to your first flying lesson. Well, what are you waiting for? Stand next to your broom, put your right hand over it and say up." Doing as he was told, he put his hand over his broom and said up. Instantly his broom shot up into his hand. Naruto looked around and noticed Hermione looking at him with a hint of annoyance and, if he was reading her correctly, jealousy. He slightly waved and looked at Ron and started to laugh when the broom went on its tail and hit him in the nose. He looked at Harry and noticed he was wobbling around a bit trying to get a hold of his broom. He looked over at Draco and noticed he was having a bit of the same problem. He didn't know why, but it wasn't that hard to keep it steady. He gave his attention back to Madame Hooch when she started to talk again. "Once you all have grabbed hold of your brooms, I want you to mount it and kick off the ground hard, hover for a moment, then lean forward a bit, then touch back down. On my whistle 3, 2, Madame Hooch blew her whistle and Naruto was about to mount his broom when he saw Neville lifting off the ground. The blonde raised an eyebrow when he saw him fly off yelling for his broom to go down. That kid certainly was an odd one. First he blows up his potion, can't remember what he had forgotten, and now can't get control of his broom. Naruto simply stepped out of the way while everyone else jumped away from Neville in his out-of-control broom. Naruto watched him fly into the tunnel, then up and out the other side. He looked up and saw Neville's cloak catch against a statue's spear. He knew if he fell off it he could get seriously injured or die. Naruto just stared at Neville in disbelief. How did he always get himself into these kinds of problems? He was pretty sure this and the potion weren't his only screw-ups. Naruto saw his cloak rip and catch onto one of the lanterns hanging on the wall. He watched as Neville's arms started to fall through his cloak. Naruto knew he could catch him, but the question was, did he want to? The blonde shook his head. Nope, he didn't. It wasn't like Madame Hooch was doing much to help him either. He winced when Neville fell out of his cloak and hit the ground with a thud. He knew that the Gryffindor wasn't hurt too bad. "Out of my way, all of you, out of my way." Madame Hooch ran over to Neville and started to lift him. "Oh dear, a broken wrist, don't worry, it's nothing we can't fix." Lifting Neville to his feet, she started to walk him to the infirmary. "If I catch anyone on their brooms, you will be out of Hogwarts faster than you can say Quidditch." Draco walked up to a ball that was lying on the ground and bent down to pick it up. Maybe if the fat lump gave this a squeeze he would have remembered to land on his fat ass. Naruto's lips formed a thin line when he saw Potter and Weasley walking up to Draco. This was going to be somewhat entertaining. Naruto walked up to Draco and stood right beside him. "Leave it here, Malfoy." "No, I think I'll leave it somewhere for Longbottom to find." Draco mounted his broom and flew up into the air. "How about in a tree?" Harry gritted his teeth in anger and started to mount his broom, Hermione marching up to him. "No way, you heard what Madame Hooch." Hermione stopped talking when she saw Naruto fly right past her and go to Draco. Harry mounted his broom and kicked off from the ground and flew towards the duo. Naruto put some distance between him and Draco as Harry was currently in the middle of them. He saw Draco smirk and chuck Neville's ball towards him. He didn't know what it was and personally didn't really care to find out. He caught it in his hand and started to bob it up and down before throwing it back. Draco stuck his hand out and barely caught it before Harry did. "Give it here, Malfoy, or I'll knock you off your broom." "Have it your way then." Draco threw it as far as he could in Naruto's direction. Naruto leaned forwards and took after it. He knew Harry was following him, so all he had to do was catch it before him. Naruto sped up and reached out to catch it. Seeing it go underneath him, he did a quick barrel roll, catching it in the process. Tossing it up and down in his hand with a victorious smirk, he looked over at Harry. "Come on, I thought you were better than this." Harry narrowed his eyes. "Give it to me, Naruto." Naruto was finding this a bit amusing. "If I don't?" Harry sighed in frustration. "Just give it here before Madame Hooch comes back out." With a shrug, Naruto threw it behind him, with Harry immediately taking off after it. Naruto flew back to the group of kids waiting, landing right next to Draco and Pansy. He dropped the broom he was holding and turned towards the direction Harry was in. He looked up at Harry and noticed him holding the ball thing in his hand with a grin on his face. Once Harry landed, he put the smoke-filled ball into his pocket and walked over towards Naruto. "I caught it." "With relative ease, good for you." Harry walked away towards Ron and Naruto smirked and started to toss the weird ball thing up and down in his hand again. Being a ninja had its perks. He knew that if he tried what he just did on Kakashi, he would have been caught, but Harry was not a ninja and didn't even see him move. Naruto turned towards Draco and showed him the ball. "How did you take it from Potter?" Naruto looked towards the direction Madam Hooch left only to see Professor McGonagall and Snape walking towards them. Well fuck. Snape walked up to Naruto, come with me Mr. Uzumaki. Naruto nodded and put the ball into his pocket. He looked back and noticed that McGonagall had taken Harry away with her. Am I in trouble? No. Naruto nodded relieved but also confused. Walking into the common room, Snape motioned Naruto to stop. Wait here. The blonde obeyed and watched the professor walk towards the boys' dormitory. He came back up the stairs followed by a kid who looked like a sixth year. Snape stopped in front of Naruto and turned towards the sixth year. Mr. Flint, I have found you a seeker. Naruto noticed Flint was sizing him up before he replied to their head of house. Professor, he is only a first year, I don't think he could be that good. Snape looked at Flint in annoyance, don't question me, Mr. Flint. I saw how well he can fly. I think he would make a good seeker. If you want you can test him yourself. Flint nodded, okay. Have a good day Mr. Uzumaki. Naruto watched Snape leave before he turned his attention to Flint who started to talk to him. What's your name? Naruto. My name is Marcus. Captain of our Quidditch team. Nice to meet you. Marcus turned around and started to walk back towards his dorm but stopped when he reached the staircase. You are on the team, but we will have a private practice session so I can give you an explanation of the game and see what possession fits you the best. I will let you know when I have some free time. Naruto dropped the broom and his bag on the floor right then. Marcus walked down the staircase and when Naruto couldn't hear his footsteps anymore, he plopped down on the couch and closed his eyes, hoping for a quick nap. Naruto walked out of the dungeon rubbing his eyes. Marcus had thankfully woken him up and told him dinner was going to start. He walked past a couple of Ravenclaw students who were talking among themselves. When he looked at them they all went silent. He shrugged his shoulders and walked into the Great Hall towards the Slytherin table and sat down next to Pansy and pulled his plate closer to him. He rubbed his eyes with his sleeve to try and wake up, he was still a little bit drowsy. Good work, Naruto. Naruto slowly turned his head to glare at the person who was yelling in his ear and it happened to be Pansy. What did I do? Pansy slapped him on the back, you made the Slytherin Quidditch team. Marcus told us. He said he doesn't know what position to give you yet, but that you are on the team. Naruto didn't understand why she had to yell about it, he would be more than willing to talk to her if she just spoke in a normal tone of voice. Yeah. Pansy looked at him concerned, are you okay? Naruto nodded and rubbed his face again with his left hand. I am just a little drowsy. He looked at his plate and waited for dinner to start. He didn't know why they had to wait for a certain time, but it was really annoying. The blonde glanced at Draco and noticed he was staring at the entrance of the Great Hall. He turned his gaze towards it and his jaw slightly dropped. There standing at the entrance was none other than Blaze Zabini. Naruto dropped his head onto the table. He was starting to hate magic. Maybe this was how his enemies felt about him and his incredible healing ability, courtesy of the fox. Unlike the wizard and witches that go to this school, Naruto healed extremely quickly. Cuts, gashes, bruises would heal in an instant. Some broken bones healed instantly as well. If Naruto broke his skull or back it would take around maybe a day if that. He learned all of that through experience. Naruto felt the table move a bit, probably Blaze sitting down, he looked up and saw the said person sitting right across from him. Naruto felt relieved when he heard Dumbledore clap, signaling that dinner started. He was about to grab his fork and load himself up a hearty meal when he saw his plate disappear. Naruto growled in frustration, what the hell was that? He looked around and noticed his plate was the only one to disappear. Naruto sent a glare at Blaze. Suspect number 1. Did you do something to my plate? Blaze shook his head, no. Naruto figured, but it was worth a shot. Hearing someone approach him from behind sent a bad feeling into his empty stomach. Mr. Uzumaki, for your detention you will be eating dinner with me in my office. Now get up. Naruto stood up from the table and followed Snape, albeit begrudgingly, out of the Great Hall. Your detention will be over when dinner is over. Naruto sighed, nodded, and followed Snape into the dungeons and into the potions class. He walked into Snape's office and sat down. Smilingly slightly when he saw his plate appear in front of him. He picked up his fork and started to eat his potatoes. Dinner not completely ruined. Naruto walked out of the dungeons and went towards the marble staircase. He wanted to take a walk before he went back to his common room. Detention was not so interesting. Snape gave him a lecture about respecting your housemates and then started to explain about the lessons they would have tomorrow. When he asked why he was the only one to get private lessons, all Snape said was that the reasons were personal and wouldn't tell him until later. Naruto continued up the stairs until he reached the 7th floor and stopped when he saw Hermione walking down a hall. He quickly ran to catch up with her and slowed down to her pace when he caught up. Where are you going? Hermione looked at Naruto to my common room. Naruto looked forward and noticed they were coming to a dead end and at the very end was a portrait of a fat lady on it. He stopped behind Hermione and looked around. Suits of armor were lined along the walls with portraits hung everywhere. Naruto watched a portrait open and quickly followed Hermione into the Gryffindor common room before the portrait closed. He knew that he wasn't allowed in here, but there were only so many rules you could follow. He saw Hermione sit on a red couch that was across from the lit fireplace and sat down next to her and examined the room. It seemed a bit warmer than the Slytherin common room. Most likely just the atmosphere. The Slytherin common room was covered in stone and was cold. The only thing that kept it warm was the fireplace, which always seemed to be lit. He turned his attention back to Hermione when he realized she was trying to talk to him. "Naruto, what are you doing here?" Naruto gave her an annoyed look. "I followed you in here, I thought you noticed." Hermione shook her head. "I didn't, and you can get in trouble, you know. You're not allowed to be in here." Naruto shrugged his shoulders, he really didn't care. "If I get caught, I'll just plead ignorance. Plus, they change the password every month, so it's not like I can come back in." Hermione looked around quickly. Probably making sure nobody else was in the common room. "Anyway, Hermione, what are you going to do here?" Hermione pulled out a book and a notepad, homework obviously. Naruto nodded, not surprised. He was able to finish his homework during detention. At least something good came out of that. "What class?" Hermione didn't even look at him when she spoke potions. Naruto heard the portrait open and heard voices coming into the common. He looked away when he noticed it was only Harry and Ron. Those two couldn't really do anything to him besides go and tell a prefect or professor. "What are you doing in here?" Naruto winced at Ron's obnoxiously loud voice. "I am helping Hermione with her homework." He noticed that Hermione didn't deny it, in fact she didn't say anything, probably too absorbed in her homework that she didn't even notice Ron and Harry coming in. Ron marched right up to him and pointed towards the exit. "Get out." Naruto looked around the room absently, no. He looked over at Harry, who was just standing there not exactly doing anything. "What is your opinion on me being in here?" Harry looked at the blonde, not expecting him to ask him a question. "Well, I guess it doesn't seem too bad to have you in here, it's not like you're doing anything disruptive or wrong." Naruto nodded in agreement, "See that? He doesn't care and neither should you. So why don't you just go away? Also, Harry, you can join Hermione and I if you like." Naruto turned his attention back to Hermione, still didn't notice them. How she didn't notice them was beyond him, with Ron practically yelling who wouldn't notice them. Naruto felt the couch move a bit and saw Harry sit next to Hermione and pull out his potions book and notepad. At least Harry wasn't yelling or complaining, it seemed that Ron was the only one who cared. Naruto picked up a notebook and handed it to Harry. "You can use that to get some ideas, but don't fully copy it. Snape will notice." Harry nodded and took the notebook. "Thanks." Naruto just rested his back against the couch and stared into the fire. Naruto felt Ron sit down, "Do not share the essay with him, Harry." Harry looked at Ron and gave him an apologetic look. "I will let you copy from mine when I am done." Ron nodded and glared at Naruto. Naruto just ignored him, but he promised himself that if Ron spoke one word to him, he would throw his ass into the fire. Harry turned his attention away from his essay and looked at Ron. "What?" Ron cleared his throat. "I said he is probably just sucking up to you because of your name. He probably wants some attention." Harry was about to say something when Naruto cut in. "Ron, I get plenty of attention, especially from the ladies. Something you're probably not familiar with. Plus I never knew who Harry was until I met him at the train station. I know about his past only because Draco told me after I was sorted into Slytherin." Ron's face turned red. "I know what it's like to have a girl's attention." "Sure you do," replied Naruto standing up from the couch. "I am going to take my leave. Harry, good luck on your essay, Ron, you're a douchebag, and Hermione, I bid you a good night." Naruto started to walk away when he heard Harry, "Don't you want your notebook back?" Naruto shook his head, "It's not mine. I just found it on the floor." Naruto walked out of the Gryffindor common room and ignored the fat lady who was yelling at him for being in there. Ron stared at the exit before looking at Harry. "What's a douchebag?" Year 1. Chapter 3. My condolences. Naruto walked into the Slytherin common room and picked up his stuff that he left by the couch. Naruto walked into his dormitory and threw his bag onto the floor next to his bed and opened up his trunk and pulled out his pouch and kunai holster. Naruto put the pouch on behind him on his waist and put the kunai holster on his thigh. Naruto shut his trunk and locked it. Naruto walked into the common room and saw Pansy sitting on the couch doing her essay for potions. Naruto tried to walk out of the common room without her noticing, but of course nothing went right for him. Pansy looked up from her essay and gave Naruto a curious look. "Where are you going, Naruto?" Naruto scratched the back of his head nervously. He couldn't exactly tell her he was going to go explore the Forbidden Forest. "I'm going for a walk," Pansy nodded and set her potions essay in her bag. "Care if I join you?" Naruto shook his head, he couldn't think of a reason to say no, he knew she would get the reason out sooner or later. "Sure." Pansy jumped up from the couch and followed Naruto out of the common room. So, where are you walking to? Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I don't exactly know. Pansy looked at Naruto and noticed the holster on his thigh. What's in the holster? Naruto looked at Pansy. You're full of questions, aren't you? Naruto walked out of the dungeon and made his way towards the main doors. He would need to leave the school before curfew. He figured he could find his way back in. He also wasn't going to change his plans because Pansy decided to come with him. Naruto walked out of the castle and stopped when he felt water land on him. Naruto looked around and noticed it was raining rather hard. Guess he didn't really notice it when he was inside the school. Naruto looked at Pansy and noticed she didn't have her cloak with her. She would probably freeze in this weather. Naruto pulled off his cloak and handed it to her. Pansy gave Naruto a grateful look and took the cloak. Pansy put the cloak on and put the hood up. She looked at Naruto, who put his hands in his pockets and started to walk into the pouring rain. She quickly followed after him, not wanting to get left too far behind. Naruto kept walking until he came to the edge of the forest. You don't have to come with me if you don't want to. Pansy looked at Naruto and then turned her attention to the forest in front of her. Why are you going into the forest? Naruto looked at the forest in front of him with interest. It doesn't seem that dangerous. Pansy wrapped the cloak tightly around her, but Dumbledore said students aren't allowed to be in the forest. Naruto looked at Pansy and noticed she looked rather nervous. Like I said before, you don't have to come with me if you don't want to. Pansy looked at Naruto and noticed he was waiting for her answer. I don't think you should go in, the creatures in there are dangerous. Naruto gave Pansy a confident smirk. I can probably handle anything in this forest, don't be so nervous, I promise nothing will happen to you. Trust me, I don't break my promises. Pansy smiled a little bit and nodded. Naruto walked into the forest, followed closely by Pansy. Naruto looked around the forest and noticed that the farther they went the darker it got. All of the trees were tall, dead-looking, broken, or just healthy-looking. Naruto glanced at Pansy to make sure she wasn't freaking out. She just looked around curiously and all of the signs of her being nervous were gone. Naruto started to walk to the right when he heard the sound of water. Naruto stopped when the sound of water was clear to hear. Naruto looked around searching for the source but couldn't see anything in the darkness that surrounded him. Naruto looked behind him to see if he could see any light coming from the school. Naruto looked at Pansy to make sure she was still by him. Naruto looked forward when he saw no light from the school and figured they were too deep in the forest to see Hogwarts. Naruto took one step forward and cursed when he felt his foot sink into a stream of water. Naruto pulled his foot of the water and looked down and saw a stream of water flowing in front of him. He saw the moon shining on top of the moving water. Naruto grabbed Pansy's wrist and started to follow the stream while making sure Pansy's didn't accidentally fall into it. Naruto followed the stream until he heard water hitting a hard surface. Naruto walked into the clearing and saw a stream pool that was probably half the size of a basketball court. Naruto looked into the water and noticed that it was clear enough for him to see the fish swimming around in the water. Naruto looked up and noticed a medium-sized waterfall that was flowing from a rock ledge that was 2 stories high. Naruto noticed the stream he was following went into the pool and out of the other end. There were rocks and trees of different sizes surrounding the area. Naruto looked at Pansy and noticed her gaze was fixed on the stream pool. Naruto took off his shoes and socks and removed his slytherin jumper and tie and put them on top of a rock that was under a thick tree so they wouldn't get wet. Naruto started to unbutton his shirt when he felt Pansy grab his arm. What are you doing, Naruto? Naruto stared at her for a minute with a confused look. Wasn't it obvious? I am going for a swim. Naruto pulled off his white button-up shirt and threw it onto the rock with the rest of his clothes. Naruto unbuckled his belt and let his pants fall to his ankles. Naruto stepped out of his pants and set them on the rock and walked into the water. Naruto ignored the pouring rain and walked farther into the water. He didn't go too far when the ground instantly dropped and he fell under. Naruto opened his eyes and started to swim towards the bottom. It took him a bit longer to reach the bottom than he expected, but that was a good thing in his opinion. Naruto resurfaced and turned around so he was facing Pansy. So, are you going to come get in or just stand there? The water isn't as cold as you would think. Pansy took off Naruto's cloak and set it on the rock with Naruto's clothes. But Naruto, it's raining. Naruto looked at Pansy with a thoughtful look. Is that all you're worried about? If you get sick, I am sure Madame Pomfrey can fix that. Pansy pulled off her jumper and undid her tie and threw articles of clothing onto the rock. What if we get caught? Naruto gave a faint smile. Then we'll get detention. Pansy untied her shoes and took them off, followed by her socks, and put them on the rock. What if they take away 50 points from each of us? Naruto went under the water and resurfaced. Pansy, we are in the Forbidden Forest. I highly doubt someone will come in here and find us. Pansy hesitantly unzipped her skirt and let it fall to her ankles. Naruto noticed this. You know you don't have to get undressed if you are not comfortable with it. Just come in with your shirt and skirt on, and I'll lend you my dry clothes. Pansy stepped out of her skirt and started to walk into the water. Just lend me your shirt when we are done swimming. Naruto nodded and swam backward slightly. There is a drop-off, so be careful. Pansy nodded, started feel around with her foot to make sure she didn't suddenly fall under. Pansy pushed off the drop-off and swam slowly towards Naruto. Pansy dunked her head under the water, brought it back up, and tried to get used to the coldish water. It wasn't freezing, but still cold. The rain wasn't helping the temperature either. Naruto put his hand on Pansy's shoulder and shoved her under the water. Naruto grinned and tried to swim to the side, only for him to feel Pansy grab his ankle and pull him under the water. Ron was staring out of the window that was next to his bed. He wasn't too tired at the moment, well, his right hand was, but that's a story for another time. Ron's eyebrows narrowed when he saw Naruto walk into the forbidden forest, with a cloaked figure following quickly behind him. Ron quickly ran out of his dorm and out of the common rooms towards McGonagall's office. This was his chance to get Naruto and whoever was with him in trouble. Oh, how much he was going to see them get yelled and maybe suspended or expelled. Naruto swam towards the surface of the water and looked around. He saw Pansy looking around the area and trying to keep herself afloat. This place reminded him slightly of his first encounter with his first sensei. It wasn't exactly a pleasant memory, yet it wasn't the worst either, and that was saying something. That was one of his near-death moments. That was only one of them. He has had plenty more of them, but he decided not to dwell on those other ones, but instead on this one in particular. This memory was when his life started to change for the best. No, the villagers didn't stop trying to kill him or start to be nice to him. They all still did that, but they wouldn't ever hurt him when his sensei was next to him. Naruto thought back to when one of the villagers dragged him off towards a river somewhere near the village. Also remembered that this was the first time that he had used the fox's power. Yes, he spoke to the Kyuubi with Kakashi, but that was so he could use the power whenever he asked for it. He had used it on multiple occasions, though every time he was either in a near-death situation or was extremely pissed off. Flashback. Naruto grabbed onto the hands that were wrapped around his hair. He tried to get the man to let go, but it seemed like he had a pretty good grip on his hair. Let me go. The man yanked Naruto forward and started to drag him to a nearby river. Shut the fuck up. Naruto started to kick his small feet wildly in hopes of getting the man to stop, but it didn't do anything except make the man tighten his grip. Naruto started to whimper in pain as the man yanked him forward again. Naruto didn't understand why the villagers and some ninja did this to him. He didn't exactly do anything wrong. The only thing he did wrong was steal food, but he only did that because nobody would let him buy it. Naruto turned his eyes in the direction they were headed. His eyes widened when he saw the river of water start to come closer. Panic washed through him, and he started to wiggle and squirm to get out of the psycho's grip. Naruto heard the sound of the water quickly cutting across the field they were in, and he started to cry and thrash around even more wildly than before. Naruto felt him get pulled onto his feet and then kicked into the water. Naruto froze when he went under the water. It was freezing cold and he didn't know how to swim at all. Naruto started to kick his feet and wail his arms wildly in hoping that would help him surface. Naruto felt air go across arm and felt a hand grab onto his neck. Naruto felt the hand push him further under the water and held him there to make sure he couldn't get back up towards the surface. Naruto accidentally tried to take an intake of breath, but he instead gulped down a bunch of water. Naruto felt himself losing air as he desperately tried to swim to the surface. Naruto started to cough and choke on the water that entered his lungs. The pain of not having air was getting to him, and he could feel himself start to lose conscious. Naruto felt a huge amount of chakra explode from him and shook the water around him. Red chakra started to come out of Naruto and trash around wildly, being careful not leave the water. Naruto's eyes turned blood red with black slits, and they started to lightly glow. Naruto felt his canines lengthen, and his nails and toenails grow into claws. The whisker marks on his cheeks thickened and went darker. Naruto felt all of the water be pushed out of his lungs, and he felt some of the chakra wrap around his mouth which allowed him to breathe. Naruto raised his right hand and grabbed the man's wrist and twisted it so hard he heard it break. Naruto tightened his grip on the man's wrist and pulled the man into the water with him. FB. Itachi Uchiha was a prodigy, at least that is what his father said. He graduated from the academy last year and he was only 7 years old. Itachi was heading home from training with his team when he felt a giant chakra spike. Itachi stopped dead in his tracks and his eyes widened a little bit. This chakra felt familiar but he couldn't quite place it. The chakra felt extremely vile and was full of killer intent. It made him sick. Itachi quickly took off towards the direction the spike came from. He had a bad feeling about this, but it was like he was drawn towards the source. He felt like he needed to go towards the area. Itachi ran into the clearing and looked around with his Sharingan activated. He couldn't see anything out of the mist, but the chakra he could feel was heavy in this area. Itachi started to walk cautiously forward. Itachi stopped and scanned the area once more looking for anything out of ordinary. His eyes swept over the river and his eyes narrowed when he saw part of the river. It was full of rapids and was thrashing around wildly. His eyes narrowed even more when the water started to turn the color of blood red. Itachi quickly sped off towards the area. FB. Naruto brought his fist back and punched the man in the chest. He could hear and feel the man's ribs break under his fist. Naruto pushed the man away and slashed at the man's throat with his claws, tearing it open and instantly turning the water red. Naruto quickly slashed at the man's stomach once more just in case. The water around him started to quickly turn dark red and he was having a hard time seeing his surroundings. Naruto could see the silhouette of the dead man floating towards the top of the river. Naruto was about to go after the body when he felt all the chakra recede and his features go back to normal. Naruto's closed his eyes and tried to float towards the top. Naruto felt himself slowly float towards the top when he felt someone grab onto the back of his shirt and yank him out of the bloody water. Naruto looked around wildly hoping to see who pulled him out of the water. He saw a kid next to him pulling out the dead body of the man who tried to drown him. Naruto grabbed his gut and vomited. He couldn't believe what he didn't know why he did it. He just listened to the voice in the back of his head. It was comforting to him. It also sounded exactly like him, maybe a bit darker, but still him. Naruto looked at the kid that pulled him out of the water and saw that he was just staring at him, which made him extremely uncomfortable. Stop staring at me. Itachi couldn't tell if the kid was stuttering because he was cold or scared, both seemed reasonable. What's your name? Naruto reluctantly turned himself to face the kid and Itachi noticed that Naruto was looking at him cautiously, like he was expecting to be attacked. Itachi had heard his father talking about this kid. His father wanted something this kid had, and by judging what had just happened, Itachi had an idea of what it was. How old are you? Naruto looked at him in confusion. Nobody has ever taken interest in him. Usually after they learn his name they try and kill him. Itachi attempted to move closer to Naruto, but stopped when he saw him back away from him. I'm not going to hurt you. Naruto eyed Itachi warily. What is your name? The question was quiet that he had barely heard it. My name is Itachi. Naruto slightly nodded. How old are you? Itachi attempted to walk closer to Naruto and continued when he didn't back away. Itachi looked around and noticed that it was pretty late and that his parents were probably worried about him. Naruto, shouldn't you be at home right now? I am sure your parents are worried. Naruto shook his head. I don't have any parents or a home. Naruto examined Itachi. If he was surprised by the news he didn't show it. Itachi thought for a moment and decided what he was going to do. He knew his father would probably be pissed, but he would worry about that later. You can come stay with me at my place if you wish. Naruto was taken back by this. Nobody was ever nice to him, not even the kids his own age. Itachi patiently waited for Naruto to answer. You can trust me, Naruto. Naruto looked away from Itachi. He hasn't hit or insulted him yet, and there was a small chance he was telling the truth. Naruto hesitantly stepped toward Itachi. Okay. Itachi nodded and motioned for Naruto to follow him and headed towards the Uchiha compound. End of flashback. Naruto looked at Pansy who somehow appeared right in front of him without him noticing. Yes. Pansy pointed towards the waterfall. Think it's possible to get on top of the waterfall. Naruto looked up at the waterfall and noticed that were ledges that Pansy could probably use to climb up. He would let her go first, so if she fell he could catch her. Yeah, probably, follow me. Pansy nodded and swam after Naruto towards the waterfall. Hermione closed her notebook and grinned at her 5-page essay for potions. It was perfect. There was no way Professor Snape could give her a bad grade on it. If he did she would probably cry. It would be the first bad grade she would have ever gotten. It would be ridiculous, or as Naruto would put it, completely fucked up. Hermione's eyes widened. How could she think that? Swearing was not something that she thought or said. There were a bunch of reasons for that. 1. It was against school rules. 2. Her parents didn't allow foul language. That was another rule she just broke. And 3. Her parents told her that people who used those obscenities were unintelligent and had a low vocabulary, and she was not stupid, she was rather smart. Unless her grades lied to her, which of course they didn't. She didn't know why she had a strong desire to get good grades. It was probably to make herself feel better, or knowing how easy failure comes to people. Hermione put all of her stuff away and went up to her dorm. She was happy that today was Friday and that she would be able to sleep in. Oh, what a relief it was. Draco walked out of his dorm and over to Naruto's. Blaze and the rest of them was all playing card games and other types, and he figured Naruto might want to join. Blaze wasn't happy about the idea, but he agreed nonetheless. Draco stopped in front of Naruto's room and raised his eyebrow when he saw that Naruto's name was the only one listed on the door. Draco raised his hand, knocked a couple of times before growing impatient. Naruto, are you in there? When he received no answer he decided to walk in. Naruto was probably asleep. Draco walked into Naruto's room to see that nobody was inside. He noticed that there was only one bed in the entire room. He looked around the room once more before deciding to leave. Draco walked out of Naruto's dorm only to see Millicent bolster Draco. Have you seen Pansy? Draco folded his arms and shook his head. No. Have you seen Naruto? Millicent shook her no. Alright, do you know where he could be? Millicent shook her once again. No. What big help you were. Draco turned around and went back into his dorm. He figured if Naruto didn't come back in at least an hour he would go get Snape. Pansy looked nervously over the edge of the waterfall. It's pretty high up. Naruto looked over the edge, and it wasn't that impressive, it's not that high, 2 stories at the max. You can do it, Pansy, just close your eyes and jump. If that's too hard, pretend that you are doing a leap of faith. If that's too hard, I'll just simply push you off the edge. Pansy's eyes widened and she stepped away from the edge. You wouldn't really push me off the edge, would you? Naruto nodded. Of course I would. Pansy glared at Naruto and nervously walked towards the edge again. Fin'll jump. Naruto grinned and nodded approvingly. That's good. Pansy closed her eyes and jumped off the edge. Naruto looked over the edge when he heard Pansy hit the water. Naruto waited for her to resurface before jumping. When he saw her head appear, he grinned. That wasn't so bad, was it? Pansy glared up at Naruto. I thought I was going to die. Naruto took a few steps back to get a running start. Naruto ran towards the cliff and dived off. Pansy watched Naruto jump and rolled her eyes at his dive. Of course he would try and show off. What was with boys and trying to show off? Most of the time the things they did weren't even impressive, just plain retarded. Naruto resurfaced and grinned at Pansy. See? Not hard. Pansy sent him a half-hearted glare. Maybe for you. But for some people it is. Naruto swam towards the area they got in it. Yeah, stop complaining. Naruto and Pansy were walking through the Forbidden Forest back to Hogwarts. They had been swimming for at least 3 hours, it had stopped raining, and they were past curfew by 2.5 hours. Well, that was Naruto's estimated guess. Also, Ron tried to get them in trouble. McGonagall walked close to their spot with Ron in tow. Naruto had to dunk Pansy under the water because she refused to go under the water for more than 30 seconds. Turns out they had to stay under for around 2 minutes. That may not seem like a long time, but when you can't breathe and can feel yourself losing conscious, it seems like hours. Of course, you can't forget how Pansy almost got them caught by burping underwater and sending a bunch of bubbles to the surface. He had to perform some CPR type shit on her, giving her mouth to mouth so she could have some air to breathe in. That benefited her, but him not so much. If they had to stay underwater for another 2 seconds, he probably would have died. He refused the Kyuubi's help. Why? Because he didn't want to scare the shit out of Pansy and have her choke on a gallon of water and drown. How well would that go over with the staff and her parents? Letting the parents know that their daughter choked and killed herself with water, all because he didn't want to die, and so he used some demon chakra to help him breathe, seems like a reasonable excuse for him, but not for the parents. Naruto changed his mind. Pansy would have probably fell unconscious just from the extreme amount of killer intent that comes from the chakra. The people back in Konoha are used to the feeling of killer intent. They aren't used to the amount he can potentially release, as he has brought a full-grown ninja to his knees and almost made him suffocate. Naruto looked at Pansy and noticed that she had finished putting on his dry shirt and cloak, leaving him shirtless. She was looking at his neck and then her eyes went to his forearm. Naruto sighed in annoyance. How could he forget about those? Thank God the Kyuubi seal didn't show up, because he didn't know how the hell he would explain that one to her. Well, Pansy, I have a demon sealed inside of me, care to meet it? Yeah, because that would go over real well. Naruto was brought out of his musings when Pansy asked a question he wished she wouldn't ask. What are those marks on your neck and under forearm, Naruto? Are they tattoos? Naruto thought for a moment. Should he tell her the truth? He didn't have to tell the whole truth, just enough for where she would believe him. Kind of. The one on my forearm is a summoning seal. It's kind of like a tattoo in a way. The one on my neck will. Pansy, if I am going to tell you, you cannot tell anyone, not your friends, Snape, Draco, Blaze, your parents, Dumbledore, nobody period. Can I trust that you will keep it a secret? Pansy was taken back by how serious Naruto sounded. He had never been serious with anyone before, well, anyone that she knew of. She nodded her head. You can trust me, I won't tell anyone. Naruto eyed her up for what seemed like a century before he finally answered. A summoning seal is a type of seal that allows me to summon an animal that will help me with certain things that I need. For example, my summoning animal is a crow, so that means I can summon it and it can fly me to certain places or help me in a fight. Pansy just stared at Naruto, amazement dancing around in her eyes. How do you get a summoning thing? Naruto thought for a minute. To be honest with you, I'm not really sure. My first sensei gave it to me before defecting from the village. He said it was his last gift to me, and by the way, it's not called summoning thing, it's called a summoning contract. Pansy nodded and looked a bit disappointed. The seal on my neck is a whole different story. I have no idea what it does, so I can't exactly explain it. Though the maker called it the cursed seal, though I think the real name is the 9 paths. Pansy looked at Naruto with what seemed like high interest. What is the 9 paths? Naruto quickly shrugged his shoulders and looked away from her. I have no idea. In fact, let's change the subject. Pansy nodded and started to ask questions about his summons. It wasn't exactly a change in subject, but it was good enough in his opinion. So Naruto, what is a sensei? Naruto cocked his head to the side. Well, a sensei is like a professor, I guess. They teach you things, though we call it training. Pansy nodded her head. What did your sensei teach you? Naruto thought for a minute, trying to find the best way to describe what he learned. My first sensei, Itachi Uchiha, trained me in taijutsu, kinjutsu, stealth, speed, torture, and a little bit of genjutsu. My second sensei, Kakashi Haddock, trained me in ninjutsu and some fuinjutsu. He also helped me improve in taijutsu, stealth, speed. Pansy looked at Naruto extremely confused. What? Naruto scratched the back of his head. Oops, I forgot you didn't know what those were. Well, taijutsu is basically just hand-to-hand combat, kinjutsu is the use of swords, genjutsu is illusionary techniques, so basically I cause a disruption in a person's senses. But the genjutsu I can cause pain from trauma, create false images, or manipulate others. Ninjutsu, unlike genjutsu which makes the opponent see illusions, the effects of ninjutsu are real. I always hate explain this in SOC like I use genjutsu to create an illusion of a fireball. Ninjutsu I would actually be creating a fireball that would potentially kill someone. I hope this makes sense. Finally fuinjutsu. Fuinjutsu allows me to seal objects, living beings, chakra, along with a wide variety of other things within another object. Pansy stared at Naruto in amazement. What's chakra? Can you show me some of those weird things? Naruto looked at Pansy's hopeful face and groaned silently in annoyance. Chakra, it's pronounced chakra, and let's just say it's another type of magic. I have a seal on my lower back that stores away a portion of my chakra, and I guess I could show you something. Pansy grinned. Yes. Though why would you want to seal away your Uka chakra? Naruto continued to walk on towards the castle, thinking of something not so destructive. I seal a lot of it off because it makes it easier for me to control it. I can release the seal and gain all of the chakra back. It just helps me control it. If I didn't seal it, I wouldn't be able to use any genjutsu and some ninjutsu. Now for a technique to show you. Naruto grinned and pulled out a piece of paper and waved it in front of Pansy's face. I will be showing you an example of fuinjutsu. Pansy doubted that paper could really do anything special. After all, it was only a piece of paper with some stupid squiggly lines on it. Naruto grinned when she seemed to look disappointed. Naruto slapped the piece of paper against a tree and poured an unnecessary amount of chakra into it. Naruto grabbed Pansy and started to pull her away from the tree. Alright, turn and face the tree with the tag on it and don't get too close to it. Pansy folded her arms and rolled her eyes. What's the worst that stupid piece of paper could do? Naruto shrugged his shoulders and activated the tag. Snape walked across the school grounds in search for two of his students. Draco and Millicent came into his office and told him that Naruto and Pansy had not returned to their dorms. Millicent said she was worried and Draco said he wanted a poker partner that wasn't completely inept. So now he found himself walking through the soggy grass trying to find them. Where they could be at, Snape didn't know, though he did doubt they were inside as he already checked the castle and it would be easy to get caught. Snape was about to head back inside and tell Dumbledore his problem when he heard and felt a giant explosion go off in the forest. Snape quickly regained his balance and looked in the direction the explosion came from and saw a big cloud of fire rising into the air. Snape shook his head in disbelief when he heard at least two trees slam into each other. Snape quickly headed towards the direction he believed Naruto was at. Naruto looked down at Pansy who was sitting on the floor and grinned. The force of the explosion knocked her on her ass, which Naruto found to be pretty amusing. Naruto looked where he placed the explosive note and grinned even more when he saw that some of the trees were knocked over, and Onfira swore he heard some animals cry out in pain. Well, they're probably dead now, so it doesn't exactly matter. That's the worst a stupid piece of paper can do. Pansy glared at Naruto and tried to stand up. You could have warned me that it was going to explode. Naruto nodded. I could have, but I didn't. Pansy tried to keep her legs from shaking. Why didn't you? Naruto shrugged his shoulders and smiled at her. I wanted it to be a surprise. Pansy finally got her legs to stop shaking and pushed him forward. It was a surprise, alright. Naruto nodded. Great idea. I was about to say we should hurry back in case anyone came to investigate, but it seems you beat me to it. Pansy glared at Naruto, then froze. Oh, you won't need to worry about that, Mr. Uzumaki, because it seems you have been caught. Pansy intensified her glare at Naruto. Nice going, dumbass. You got us caught. Snape lazily turned his gaze towards Pansy. Actually, Miss Parkinson, it was your loud mouth that helped me find your exact location. Don't go blaming your faults on other people. Now if you two would follow me. Pansy looked at Naruto and punched him in the arm. It's not funny. Ron stood at the entrance of the school with Professor McGonagall. He had finally got the bastards in trouble. Serves them right for being douchebags. He still didn't know what it meant, but it sounded insulting, so he was going to use it. Ron grinned when he saw Naruto and Pansy walking towards the entrance with Snape in front. Nice going, Slytherins. You just got your house in trouble. How does that make you feel? Naruto rubbed his stomach and slightly smiled. A bit hungry actually. Say, Snape, care to get me some food? Ron just stared at him a bit taken back. What the hell did the kid want him to do? Argue about how they lost some points and that their house really doesn't care? Okay, well, he didn't care. It seemed that Pansy cared somewhat. Some 7th years probably cared as well since this was their last year and they probably wanted to win the house cup. You can fill your bottomless pit during breakfast tomorrow. Right now you will be going to bed. Snape didn't know how much Naruto could eat until he served his detention. Snape swore he ate around 8 plates of food. Naruto glared at Snape. Fine then, if I die of starvation it will be your fault and I hope you go into depression for it. Snape just simply pointed towards the dungeons. Naruto glared at him once more before grabbing Pansy's arm and walking off towards the common room. Naruto sat next to Pansy in the Great Hall waiting for breakfast to start. He was not in the best mood. There were a lot of reasons for this and they were very simple. One of them was because Pansy kept on saying she had a secret and she wouldn't tell him it. 2 was because Ron kept on smiling at him. He swore to himself that if Ron said one thing to him he would punch him in the face. 3 was because Pansy and Daphne thought it would be funny to jump on him when he was sleeping. Naruto glared at Pansy. She was tapping him on the shoulder repeatedly and it didn't seem like she was going to stop until he gave her his full attention. What? What is so important that requires you to tap me on the shoulder repeatedly? Pansy grinned at how easily she was annoying him. I know who likes you. Naruto raised an eyebrow in interest. Someone likes him. Care to tell me who? Pansy nodded her head, her blue eyes failing to hide her amusement. It's Daphne Greengrass. Naruto's interest instantly disappeared and a huge amount of annoyance spread across his face. Are you serious? Pansy nodded her head and glanced at Daphne, who was staring creepily at Naruto. Fuck. This is worse than anything that has ever happened to me. I would rather be choked and punched in the face than be with that bitch. Pansy tilted her to the side in confusion. Is it bad if she's a bitch? Does that really help you make your decision? Naruto nodded his head and glared at the blonde who supposedly liked him. Yes it does. If I wanted to be with a bitch I would buy a dog. Pansy started to laugh when Daphne came up and smacked Naruto on the back of his head. Ow. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and snapped his fingers a couple times at Dumbledore to try and get him to start breakfast. Hermione looked over at Naruto and noticed he was yelling at a 7th year and giving him the finger. She wasn't too surprised Naruto was getting in arguments. Ron told Harry what he did last night and she just happened to hear what he was saying. To say she was disappointed in Naruto, he knew it was against the rules to go into the Forbidden Forest, but yet he still went inside. He was lucky nothing killed him. He was also lucky that Snape had only taken away 50 points from him. Pansy was also with him when he was caught and went into the forest. She got 60 points taken away from her, 50 for going into the forest, and another 10 for swearing, yet since the 7th years can't exactly do anything to Pansy as she is a girl and only 11. If the guys hit Pansy they would not only have hit a girl, but also a minor. Now if they hit Naruto all they would have done is hit a minor, and at the moment that doesn't seem like that would be a big deal to them. Naruto glared at the 7th year that seemed to have a problem with him. It was only 50 points, get over it. The 7th year slammed his fists against the table in a fit of pathetic rage. Only 50 points. Because of those 50 points we're not in first anymore. Naruto rolled his eyes. Oh, we're not in first anymore, such a shame. Draco, what is Slytherin House going to do now that we're not in first anymore? Draco shrugged his shoulders. I don't know, maybe we'll just get over it and earn those 50 points back. The 7th year grabbed his hair in frustration. This is serious. Stop acting so childish. Naruto looked at the 7th year in amusement. Hey now, I'm not the one who is throwing a tantrum over 50 points. Draco rested his head on his arms. Actually Naruto, it was 110 points. Naruto ignored Draco and looked at the girl that was sitting next to the 7th year and grinned. Hey bro, is this troll looking thing your girlfriend? Once Naruto saw the rage appear on the kid's face he knew he hit mark. So she is your girlfriend, that's really sad. Is that the best you could do or are you dating her out of pity and have a quick fuck on the side? Naruto grinned slightly when he saw the kid's face turn red. He really needed to stop being around Anko. She is not a troll. I am not dating her out of pity and I don't have a quick fuck on the side. So shut your mouth. Naruto somewhat hid his amusement. So I take it, you're willingly fucking her? Naruto looked at the girl and noticed she looked like she was about to cry. Or is she not bending over for you? Naruto quickly bent back and caught a glass plate that was thrown at him. Pansy looked at Naruto and scooted away. Naruto gripped the plate and threw it at the kid's fingers that were resting on the table. Pansy looked away when she heard the kid's finger break. Naruto looked at the kid's finger and noticed it looked like an S. I take it, she doesn't. Naruto tapped his fingers impatiently on the table. What the fuck was taking so long? His breakfast should be here by now. Naruto grinned when he saw the table magically fill with food. Naruto instantly filled his plate and grabbed his utensils. I did Akamasu. Naruto was walking towards his transfiguration class with Draco and Pansy, talking about unimportant things that he didn't have and was pretending to be interested in: money, mansions, jewelry, and family. Money was something he didn't have a lot of until now, and yet he still couldn't use the money he had here in Konoha, so that meant once he went back he would be broke again. He didn't live in a mansion. No, he lived in some small-ass apartment that cost more than everyone else's. It lacked a living room, and the kitchen, bedroom, and bathroom were all squished together in one space. He wasn't in the need of jewelry, and he lacked a family. So to stay he couldn't relate to anything in this conversation, and he was silent most of the time. So Naruto, what are some of the amazing things your parents did? Naruto looked at Pansy and shrugged his shoulders. I don't know. Pansy looked at Naruto confused and even Draco looked confused. What do you mean you don't know? Don't you pay attention to what they do? Naruto shook his head. It's hard to pay attention to people that are dead. Pansy stopped walking and looked at Naruto. Your parents are dead. Naruto nodded. Didn't I just say that? Pansy nodded and looked at the ground. I'm sorry. Naruto put his hands in his pocket. It's fine. Naruto was about to continue to class when he heard a voice he didn't want to hear. I still can't believe you made Seeker Harry. Naruto turned around, punched the figure in the face. Naruto felt the person's nose break under his fist and looked at the figure now lying on the floor trying to stop the blood. Oh wow, I feel so much better. Naruto turned around, walked off to class. Pansy looked at Ron on the stone floor and kicked him in the gut before running after Naruto. He was right, it did make you feel better. Harry looked down at Ron lying on the floor. Harry pulled Ron to his feet, walked him towards the hospital wing. Naruto stopped instantly, causing Pansy to run into him and Draco to almost run into them. I just realized that we don't have any classes today. Draco stared at Naruto like he was an idiot and Pansy started laughing. It's not funny. I'm not used to having any free time, okay? Draco shook his head. Excuses, just admit you forgot. Naruto nodded at Draco. I did forget. Draco turned around and started to walk towards the dungeons. I am going to find Crab, Blaze, and Goyle. So if you need help remembering anything you'll know where to find me. Naruto glared at Draco and mumbled, you ass. Naruto looked at Pansy and backed away slightly. What are you staring at? Pansy pointed behind him looking a little nervous. Naruto looked back and started laughing when he saw the 7th year he was arguing with at breakfast, walking towards him with around 4 of his friends and his troll right next to him, and he looked pretty pissed while his girlfriend had a tear-stained face. Not only is she ugly, she's fat too. Naruto mumbled to himself as the group of 7th years walked up to him. Hey you little shit. Remember me? Naruto shook his head. No I don't, but I do remember that beast-looking thing standing next to you. What a hideous creature. Naruto grinned when the 7th year just stood there thinking of a comeback, all of his friends looking at him expectantly. Yeah well, at least my girlfriend doesn't look like a pug. Naruto grinned and nodded. Ah, she'll grow into it, it's only her nose after all, and besides, I think it looks cute. Pansy put the hood of her cloak up to hide her embarrassment and glared at the 7th year. Though your girlfriend, if you can even call her a girl, is full grown and looks like a ogre. Hell, my shit is better looking than that thing you call your girlfriend. Naruto pulled down his eyelid and stuck out his tongue. Bitch, the 7th year looked at Naruto slack-jawed. How dare you call her that? Naruto narrowed his eyes and shook his head. I wasn't calling her a bitch. I was calling you a bitch. Naruto looked at the ground and mumbled to himself, people are so stupid sometimes. Pansy looked at the 7th year and noticed pure rage on his face. Nice going Naruto, she thought to herself. Do you want your ass kicked? Naruto just stared at the 7th year unfazed by his lack of intimidation. If someone insulted me and my girlfriend like I have insulted yours, I would have beaten the living shit out of them and I would have kicked their asses during breakfast by myself. The 7th year just started to laugh. You kick a 7th year's ass. How old are you? 12. Naruto shook his head. Actually, I'm 11 and yes, I will kick your ass. All 5 of you couldn't beat me. Pansy couldn't believe what she was hearing. Naruto was claiming that 5 7th years wouldn't be able to beat him in a fight. He better not bring her into this. There was no way in hell she could bring down that useless anorak. Yes, she made fun of people, but those were 1st years and some 2nd years. Pansy groaned silently and covered her face even more with her hood. She didn't want to see this. Naruto cracked his neck when the 5 7th years started to walk closer up to him. He had been itching for a fight and it seemed the opportunity presented itself. Naruto watched as the 1st and 2nd 7th year charged him. Naruto ducked under the 1st's fist and punched him in the gut, making the 1st 7th year drop to the floor, grabbing his gut in pain. Naruto quickly sidestepped the 2nd 7th year and kicked him behind his knees, making him fall over and chopped him in the back of the neck, knocking the 2nd 7th year unconscious. Naruto looked at the last 3 7th years and in a blink of an eye he was right behind them. Naruto pulled his foot back and slammed it into the back of the 3rd 7th year, sending him into the posts holding up the roof. Naruto turned to face the 4th 7th year who was too busy staring at the 3rd 7th year to notice him. Naruto hit the kid in his lower back, making him bend over backwards. Naruto punched him in the back of the head with his right hand and caught him by his hair with his left and threw him to the floor. Naruto felt a hand grab onto the hood of his cloak and saw the fifth seventh year swing at him. Naruto grabbed the kid's wrist before it could hit him and elbowed the seventh year in the stomach, knocking the air out of him and making him bend forward. Naruto brought his elbow forward and elbowed the kid in the face, and a loud crack echoed through the hall, signaling a broken nose. Naruto watched the kid fall to the floor, holding his nose and groaning in pain. Pansy pulled her hood off and looked at Naruto in amazement. That was so cool. Naruto grinned at Pansy. I told you I could take all 5 of them. Pansy walked closer to Naruto and looked at the 7th years lying on the floor. Why didn't any of them use magic? Naruto shrugged his shoulders. They probably weren't thinking about magic. Naruto swore under his breath when he heard a voice that he only heard during meal times. You're probably correct, Naruto. Naruto looked at Professor Dumbledore and smiled. Professor Dumbledore. This can be explained. Dumbledore smiled at Naruto and nodded. I'm sure it can, though you don't have to worry about explaining as I saw the whole thing. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. Oh shit. Dumbledore walked towards the 7th years, ignoring Naruto's comment. I believe we should continue this conversation in my office. I believe we would have more privacy there. Naruto just nodded his head, not exactly sure of what to say. Pansy looked between Naruto and Dumbledore. Am I in trouble? Dumbledore smiled at Pansy and shook his head. No, Miss Parkinson, you are not. You may go to your common room or enjoy the nice weather outside, though I would prefer the second option as it is the most splendid day today. Pansy looked at Naruto and noticed he wasn't even paying attention. She nodded and quickly ran towards the Slytherin common room to find Daphne. Dumbledore waited for Pansy to leave before looking at Naruto. I think I'll have Professor Snape take these 5 to the hospital wing to be looked at. Dumbledore started to slowly walk towards his office. Come along, Naruto, we have a conversation to finish. Naruto nodded and followed after the old man. Snape was going to be so pissed. Hermione stared at Ron and Harry in disinterest as they walked around the grounds of Hogwarts. The only thing it seemed they could talk about was Quidditch and how Harry was the youngest Seeker in a century. She had just shown Harry that his father was the Gryffindor Seeker, then after that they started to ignore her. Well, Ron ignored her. Harry just seemed to listen to whoever was talking. I still can't believe you made Seeker. Harry nodded his head. I don't see why you're making this such a big deal. Ron grinned at Harry. It is a big deal. I told you this before. You are the youngest Seeker in a century. Hermione groaned in annoyance when she heard a voice she hated listening to. What the hell are you yelling about, Weasley? Ron turned around and got a smug look on his face, just about how Harry is the new Gryffindor Seeker. Draco rolled his eyes. Is that supposed to be impressive? Do you really think that you are going to beat Slytherin with Potter as your Seeker? Once Marcus decides Naruto's position, Gryffindor will be flattened. You Muppets won't stand a chance. Hermione was surprised that Naruto made the Quidditch team. She was curious as to what position he would get, though you Slytherins won't stand a chance. Harry will catch the snitch and win the match for us. Draco turned around and started walk away, followed by Crabbe, Goyle, and Blaze. Whatever you say, Weasley, just prepare for some major disappointment. That bitch. A 5th-year girl with brown hair looked up at her blonde friend. Who's a bitch? The blonde glanced at her friend. Some tart that slept with my boyfriend. The brunette grinned slightly. I told you he was a man whore, but once again you didn't listen. The blonde stood up from her chair. You know what I am going to do to that fucking tosser. The brunette relaxed against the green chair she was sitting at. Storm up to him and claim that you two are over, and then half an hour later, you two will shag each other in some broom closet. The blonde started to pace around the common room. Nope. Not this time. This time I will end our relationship for good. I am done with that prick. The brunette sighed and closed her eyes. You always say that. The blonde glared at her friend. I mean it this time. Pansy stared at the blonde that was bitching about her relationship. She was trying to decide if staying in the common room with Daphne it was worth listening to this girl complain about her cheating boyfriend. Apparently she has been cheated on multiple times and has failed at ending the shitty relationship. Pansy looked at Daphne and noticed she was staring as well. I'm so glad I don't have problems like that. Pansy grinned. If you went out with Naruto you probably would. Daphne folded her arms. No, I wouldn't. Naruto would be faithful to me. Pansy smirked and nodded her head. Okay, whatever you say, Daphne. But you are right. You don't have problems like that and probably never will. Daphne glared at Pansy. Oh really? What makes you think I won't ever have those kinds of problems? Pansy smiled at Daphne and stood up. Because you scare off every guy you go after. Daphne stood up from her chair and kept her glare focused on Pansy. And you don't? Pansy nodded. As Naruto run away from me yet? Daphne's face turned red. No, not yet. Anyways, what have you done with him that I haven't? Pansy leaned towards Daphne and started to whisper. He took me swimming last night in the Forbidden Forest and got undressed in front of me. I've seen him in his underwear and you haven't. When I took off my skirt he didn't run or complain. He basically kissed me underwater as well. I am way ahead and you are far behind. Pansy started to walk towards the exit when Daphne started to yell. You bint. How could you do that in the forest? Pansy smiled wryly. Get your mind out of the gutter, you dirty slut. I am only 11. Pansy walked out of the common room followed by Daphne. Where are you going? Pansy continued to walk forward and not even look back to see if Naruto is done talking with Professor Dumbledore. I'm sorry for being disruptive. Dumbledore smiled at Naruto and started to pet his bird. That didn't sound too sincere. Naruto folded his arms and took off his shoes. That's because it wasn't. Dumbledore sat down at his desk and started to eat the candy that was on his desk. Being sincere won't kill you. Naruto sat down in front of Dumbledore's desk. It might. Naruto glanced at Dumbledore and saw the twinkle in his eye. Naruto looked back at the floor. I promise that you will live. Naruto sighed in annoyance. I'm sorry for being disruptive, kicking ass, and simply being awesome. I could have handled the situation in a less violent way and maybe made some friends out of the situation. Naruto glanced at Dumbledore and saw that he was still smiling at him. That was much better, could have done without the language, but it shows that it wasn't hard to apologize. Naruto shook his head. Actually, it was extremely difficult. I think I felt my heart stop for a second. Naruto smiled slightly when he heard Dumbledore laughing quietly to himself. Oh. I almost forgot Naruto, lemon drop. Naruto grinned and took one. Old man, you got any Pocky? Dumbledore sat there thinking Pocky. Naruto dropped his lemon drop and stared at Dumbledore in shock. You don't know what Pocky is? Do you know what ramen is at least? Dumbledore nodded with a smile on his face. Of course I know what ramen is, but Pocky I don't know what that is. Naruto's eyes widened. You're missing out, old man. Pocky is the best kind of candy. Ramen is the best food ever made. I just realized that you don't serve ramen here at Hogwarts. What's up with that? Dumbledore ate another lemon drop and looked at Naruto. The reason we don't have ramen is because the elves don't know how to make it. Also, it never came to my mind to serve it. Naruto stared at Dumbledore like he was crazy. I could teach them. Where is the kitchen? Shit, just hand them a cookbook or something. Also, you should have some chopsticks along with the forks and spoons. Forks and spoons are awkward to use and are bulky. Plus, eating food with forks and spoons just isn't the same without chopsticks. Dumbledore smiled and nodded. I will look into ramen and chopsticks being served at lunch and dinner and the chopsticks at every meal. Now, did you say that Pocky is candy? Naruto nodded his head. Only the best kind of candy. They make this one kind of Pocky where once you take a bite it melts in your mouth. Dumbledore leaned forward in interest. Where do you get this Pocky at? Naruto stared at Dumbledore's bird who just stared back at him. You can get it in Japan. You can probably get it somewhere down here as well. Dumbledore smiled and nodded. I'll have to look into getting this Pocky. Though right now I have a question I need to ask you or it will bug me forever. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Ask away. Dumbledore nodded and ate a lemon drop. I was planning on putting a translation charm on you when you came to Hogwarts so you could speak and understand English, but then I found out by Professor Snape that you already spoke English. Care to tell me a story? Naruto poked the red bird and nodded his head. During the first year of the academy, students are required to learn a second language. Since my village does trading and other types of business with villages that don't speak Japanese, so the Hokage, the leader of our village, decided to have all academy students learn a second language for business purposes. Though I wasn't very good at speaking English when I graduated from the academy, but after a lot of studying and practicing I got the hang of it. Dumbledore nodded in understanding. Is English the only secondary language you learn? Naruto looked at all the paintings surrounding the office and shook his head. No, you can learn other languages if you want. You get to pick what language you learn. Some of the languages you can learn are English, French, Russian. There is more, but I am not sure what they are. Dumbledore nodded. That makes sense. Naruto nodded. Good, because I am not explaining it again. Dumbledore clapped his hands together. Care to answer one more question? Naruto nodded and grabbed another lemon drop. How does your village decide who goes on what task? Naruto rubbed his stomach and groaned in light annoyance. He was starving. It depends on your rank. Dumbledore raised a gray eyebrow. Rank? Naruto nodded. Yeah, your rank. The first rank is academy student. They're basically not even ninja. They don't do any missions or tasks as you call them. They're basically just first years. Second is genin. Genin is the lowest level of ninja. They do D rank missions and rarely C rank missions. Third is chunin. Chunin means middle ninja. They are qualified to guide other ninja and lead missions. Chunin have reached a level of maturity and ability that primarily consists of leadership skills and tactical prowess. They're usually sent on C rank or B rank missions. Fourth is Takubetsu Jonin, which means special high ninja. Instead of having all-around Jonin training, they have Jonin level ability in a specific area or skill. Fifth is Jonin, which means high ninja, are generally highly experienced shinobi with great individual skill who serve as military captains. They're sent on A rank missions. Experienced Jonin may be sent on S rank missions, which are considered to be the greatest difficulty. Sixth is Anbu, which means dark side. It's short for Ansatsu Senjutsu Takushu Butai, and that means special assassination and tactical squad. Anbu take orders directly from the cage, performing special high-level missions, such as assassination and torture. Seventh and basically last is Cage, which means Shadow is the leader of the 5 most powerful hidden villages and generally are also the most powerful ninja in their respective villages. Dumbledore smiled and nodded once again in understanding. Thank you for the explanation, Naruto. Naruto waved his hand in a lazy motion. You're welcome, I guess, though I have a feeling you didn't bring me into your office to punish me, more to satisfy your curiosity. Dumbledore nodded and stood up. That is correct, now I believe it's time for lunch, let's go fill our stomachs, and after lunch, I think I am going to go find some of that Pocky you were talking about. Naruto grinned and put on his shoes. It's the best. Actually that was a lie, ramen is the best, but Pocky is a close second. Pansy sat at the table waiting for lunch to start, she was hungry and was ready to stuff her face. Pansy looked at the entrance of the Great Hall and saw Naruto enter with Professor Dumbledore. She raised an eyebrow when she saw him head off towards the Gryffindor table. Pansy looked at Draco and noticed that he also noticed but didn't seem to care. Pansy looked back at Naruto and narrowed her eyes when she saw him talking to Hermione Granger. Hey Pansy, did Naruto run away from you already? Pansy glared at Daphne and gave her the finger. No, he didn't, you uptight ignorant bitch. Daphne looked away from her and started to talk to Blaze. Pansy looked at Naruto, who was sitting down right between her and Draco. What were you doing at the Gryffindor table? Naruto gave Pansy a confused look, talking to Hermione. Pansy scooted as close as she could to Naruto. Really, about what? Naruto shrugged his shoulders, just asked how her day was going. Pansy's mouth opened a bit. You never ask me how my day is going. Naruto handed Draco some lemon drops before answering, that's because you are always with me. Pansy nodded. Yeah, but what if I was in a bad mood or someone made fun of me and made me cry? You wouldn't know about any of that because you didn't ask how my day went. Naruto sighed in mild annoyance. You would probably come up to me and bitch about it, I wouldn't have to ask. Pansy folded her arms in anger and looked away from Naruto. Screw you, Naruto. Naruto put a lemon drop in his mouth. You probably would, Pansy. Pansy's face turned bright red. You're such a pervert. Naruto smiled a bit. Yes, a bit. But you know something? You didn't deny wanting to screw me. Naruto looked at Pansy in amusement when he saw her red face go darker. I'm just messing around, no need to get embarrassed. The red on Pansy's face dimmed down a little bit and went away fully when she saw Marcus walk up to Naruto. Naruto, after lunch, meet me in the Quidditch field. Naruto nodded and started to fill his plate. Naruto stood in the middle of the Quidditch field in front of Marcus. Flint, okay, you dragged my ass clear the fuck out here, what do you need? Marcus ignored Naruto's language and decided to get this over with as quickly as possible. I've decided on what position you're going to play on our Quidditch team. Naruto gave Flint an annoyed look. You drugged me out here to tell me my position. Couldn't you have just told me during lunch when you came up to me? Marcus nodded. I could have, but I am also going to teach and have you practice your position before practice, so that way you will already have the hang of it and I won't have to waste practice time explaining everything to you. Naruto nodded. Okay, that makes sense, so what position am I? Marcus smirked. One of the most important positions, Seeker. You're going to have a lot of pressure on you, and the Slytherin Quidditch doesn't accept failure. Don't disappoint us. Draco was sitting on a couch in the Slytherin common room that was in front of a table. At the moment he was playing cards with Blaze, Crabbe and Goyle. Right now he was on a team with Goyle, and they were losing badly. You're such an idiot, why did you start your pairs first? I told you to create your runs and then your pairs since runs are harder to create. Goyle looked at his hand and then looked back at Draco confused. You told me to create the easiest first, and pairs are the easiest. Draco grabbed Goyle's hand in frustration and started to look through it. Look at this. You have your 2 runs right here, see, 4, 5 and 6 of hearts and Jack, Queen and King of spades. You have your 2 pairs complete as well, 3 aces and 3 jacks, and now you're down. Also I meant create the easiest run first. Goyle looked at his cards that were lying on the table face up. Oh, Draco shook his head at Goyle's stupidity and laid down his cards. There, we are down as a team, now try and get rid of as many cards as you can. Goyle nodded and looked at his hand again. Draco looked at Goyle's hand which only held 3 cards and sighed in frustration. Goyle, lay down the 3 of clubs on Blaze's pile, then lie the Queen of hearts down on me, and then discard the Joker, then I'll discard my 7 and 8 of hearts on you, then I'll throw away my ace of clubs and we win. Goyle nodded and smiled. We won. Draco picked up the 2 decks of cards and started to shuffle them together. Only the 3rd round, we still have 2 more to win before we actually win the game. Goyle nodded. What's the next round? Blaze waited patiently for Draco to start handing out the cards. 4 pairs, no runs. Goyle nodded again. This should be easy for me. Draco started to pass 11 cards to everyone. Let's hope so because I am sick of losing. Naruto landed on the ground and got off his broom and handed the snitch to Marcus. There, I caught the snitch. Does this mean I can leave? Marcus nodded at Naruto. Yes, you can leave now, though remember practice is every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. It starts at 5 in the morning and ends at 7 in the morning, which gives you 30 minutes to get ready for class. Naruto nodded. I can handle that. Marcus took the broom from Naruto. Alright, good, I'll introduce you to the team on Monday, you can leave now. Also Naruto, I made Terrence our reserve seeker for you, don't make me look like a fool. Naruto nodded and left towards the castle. Naruto stopped and narrowed his eyes when he saw the distance towards the castle. It wasn't too far, but at the moment it was. Naruto turned around to face Marcus to make sure he wasn't looking. When Naruto saw Marcus wasn't looking at him, he quickly disappeared in a cloud of smoke. What if Godlike Naruto is sorted into Slytherin? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.